I'd like to call this April 7th session of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Alexander.
Here.
Bartley. Here. Bresnahan.
Here.
Shatnoff. Here. Graney.
Here.
Jordan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. McGee. McGivern.
Here.
Soto.
Present.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon. Valentine. Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
For public comment, I'd like to just begin, what I would recommend that we do for the beginning of this meeting this evening is by way of public comment, under the rule, we generally allow 15 minutes for people to speak on this, and obviously we have a lot of interested individuals who are very concerned about certain matters that are coming before the City Council this evening. In the spirit of fairness as well as democratic efficiency, I have requested that 3 people speak in opposition to the matter and 3 people speak in favor of the matter. And those people have been selected by the respective sides. They will be asked to come and speak at this microphone here shortly. They'll give their name and their residential address for the record. Okay, so we ask that everybody will be respectful of these individuals as they're listening and as they're speaking. And under the rule, we do allow 2 minutes to address the City Council on presumably the matter that's at hand. Okay, so it's any item on the agenda, but we assume we know what you're going to speak about this evening. So therefore, without further ado, under public comment, we are led off by the first speaker, Father Albert Scheer of the Our Lady of the Cross Parish, residential address 72 Sycamore Street. Father, there's the microphone right there. Just make sure it's turned on, please.
Kevin, just one correction, 23 Sycamore.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. 23. Thank you.
This certainly has been a long and emotional process for everyone, and I would just like to take this opportunity to thank the city councilors for all their time and efforts and patience during the past several years. On numerous occasions, you did take the time to listen to everyone's concerns, and we truly appreciate that. We have heard a great deal about talk about needing a Polish historic district in order to keep the Polish culture alive here in Holyoke. I just want to stress tonight that at Our Lady of the Cross Parish, we are indeed keeping the Polish culture alive. Just one simple example, the blessing of Easter food on Holy Saturday is a beautiful Polish tradition among the Polish people. A tradition that was present at Mater Dei Rosa Church and a tradition that we have at Our Lady of the Cross Parish. This past Holy Saturday, we had over 200 people in church to have their Easter food blessed. I think that says a lot about keeping the Polish culture and heritage alive. During the past week or so, the supporters of the historic district have asked you to do what is best for Holyoke. I ask tonight that you do what is best for Our Lady of the Cross Parish. A strong and viable Our Lady of the Cross Parish is certainly very good for Holyoke. Whatever happens tonight, I just hope and pray that after tonight we can put our differences, our divisions aside and truly begin to heal as a community and as a parish community. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. The next speaker is Victor Anap of 103 Bridle Path Road, Chicopee. Victor?
Yes, President Jordan, I thank you for the opportunity to speak. We've heard from a priest at this meeting. America and liberty and the flag were founded on the principle of separation of church and state. We haven't seen much of that lately. There are a number of counselors who belong to parishes in this city, Catholic parishes. This issue before you was for the whole city. It's for Ward 1. It's for the Polish people of Mater Dei Rosa. we've heard about some minor things that have been done to Holy Cross. The only Polish church that represents Polish people in this city is Mater Dolorosa, as it has since 1901. There's only one person that owns the churches of Catholic origin in this city, and that's the Bishop of Springfield, a non-resident landowner. Not Holy Cross. Mater Dolorosa never owned their own church. A lady named Agatha Jerzyk, for $1, gave it to the diocese. I'll make this offer tonight. I'll give them 100 times that price to take the church back for the people in the Polish of Mater Dolorosa. The council has a chance tonight to show the whole world that there's fairness in Holyoke. The Irish that came before us, the French who came before us. This city is a great city of ethnic diversity. Irish, French, Polish. Unfortunately, the French lost their parishes. 2 of them were destroyed. We don't want that to happen to Mater Dolorosa, and we don't want it sitting fallow like Holyoke Catholic is since 2002. I'd like to just have you remember one thing. I'm going to read a quick statement from one of Holyoke's favorites. I believe in an America where the separation of church and state is absolute, where no public official either request or accept instruction on public policy from the Pope. I do not speak for my church on public matters, and the church does not speak for me. Whatever issue may become before me, I will make my decision in accordance with what my conscience tells me, and without regard to outside religious pressures or dictates. But if the time should ever come when my office will require me to either violate my conscience or violate the national interest, then I would resign my office, and I hope that any conscientious public servant would do the same. I'm calling upon you to invoke the public fairness of JFK, a favorite son of Holyoke. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Teresa Keeler of 22 Manor House Court. Teresa.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Teresa Keeler, and I've been a parishioner for 42 years at Mater Dolorosa. My grandfather helped build this church. As a little girl,
You may want to just hold it if you want to take it off the thing.
as a little girl, I know what this church is all about. My grandfather, like I said, helped build it. I made my first communion there, I did my confirmation there. I did everything I could, and I enjoyed this church. My grandfather's not here today, but if he was, I'll tell you, he'd be against the way these people have been acting and saying bad things about our church. Father Albert is one of the best pastors I think I've ever had in my life. You're putting a
Respect for everyone's vision and point of view. Thank you. We're going to be nice and respectful of all. Thank you. Continue, Teresa.
Thank you. I just want to say that I want to know where all these people were when we were given a 2-year notice, I would say, that Mater Dolorosa was going to close. And I can remember all these Polish people in the church that had everything to say, nothing but bad things about why are we going to close it? We shouldn't have to close it. Well, I want to know where you people were in putting your envelopes in this church to save it. Nobody was there to save this church, but all of a sudden you're here and you want to save our church. No, it just can't be this way no more. I feel you really got to stop and think. There's 2 sides to the story. There's going to be a big burden if we have to take on 2 churches. We have a school. We have a convent. We have 2 parish halls. We cannot support this. You will be closing down another church if this continues in the city. Stop and think what you're doing and what you're thinking about how you're going to vote here. I'm just trying to say that I really want to know why it had to go this far. There's so much other things going on in this world, and we shouldn't even be here today arguing over something like this. I'm sorry, that's the way I feel. My heart was in my church. I love Mata de la Rosa, let me tell you. It was 4 generations that came out of there from my family. It hurt me, but I knew I had to go on. And I'm very proud of where I am today. And I'm proud of Our Lady of the Cross. It has done a lot to bring in the Polish people. It's doing everything they can to try to make everybody comfortable. We have 2 Polish priests. They're wonderful. Stop and think, please. I'm asking, think of both sides of the story here. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Koss of 5 Lynn Ann Drive. Joe?
Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Koss. I am currently the president of the Polish American Congress of Western Massachusetts. I am also the treasurer of the Polish National Alliance, Lodge 525, that own and operate Pilsudski Park in West Holyoke. I am also serve on the board of directors of the Polish Center of Discovery and Learning at Elms College in Chicopee. I am a lifelong resident of Holyoke, and my heritage is 100% Polish. I was born in 1943 and for 16 years lived at 99 Maple Street in the heart of the Polish section of Ward 4. The tenement block at 99 Maple Street was directly across the street from Mata de la Rosa Church. Mata de la Rosa Church was founded in 1896 as a Roman Catholic Polish ethnic church and has been staffed since its beginning by conventual Franciscan priests and brothers. Mata de la Rosa School first opened its doors in 1906 with an enrollment of 400 students, and in 1996 celebrated its 100th anniversary of providing quality education to the children of Holyoke and the surrounding towns. The church, school, and social hall were the center of all Polish religious and social activities. When I think back on the neighborhood where I grew up, I remember the many businesses that were owned and operated by Poles. There was Szalkutski's Market, Tenshar's Bakery, Pico's that sold Polish language newspapers, Ligia's Drugstore, Korpaska's Variety Store, Godek's Market, Triangle Shoe Store, Royal Furniture, National Studio of Photography, Kay's Pastry Shop, the Kosciuszko Club. These and many other establishments, with the exception of Kay's Pastry Shop, are long gone. When Bishop McDonald decided to close the Mata de la Rosa Church in 2011, it was like a kick in the collective groin of the Polish American community in Holyoke. At that time, Mata de la Rosa Parish was arguably the most active parish in Holyoke. We had a beautiful church, a parish school, a social and educational center, and a large parking area. We were the envy of all the other parishes in Holyoke. It is painfully obvious that the goal of the diocese was to close ethnic parishes, especially Polish ethnic parishes, starting in Adams and working our way down to Holyoke. When I look at Mata de la Rosa Church, I see the possibility of a revitalized and vibrant Polish Heritage Historic District, honoring the generations of Poles who made immeasurable contributions to the city of Holyoke. This is not just to continue Polish traditions. We can do that anywhere. We can go to St. Stan's in Chicopee to have our food blessed. We want a symbol here in Holyoke that Poles existed. When the diocese looks at Mata de la Rosa Church, all they see are dollar signs. The diocese claims it doesn't want to demolish the church. That's probably true. What the diocese does want is to sell it and let the new owner demolish it and destroy it. destroyed Mother Rosa Church, the most important symbol of the Polish American community in Holyoke. I therefore call upon all councilors tonight to vote yes for the establishment of a Polish Heritage Historic District. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Niles Kershane of 1164 Northampton Street. Niles.
Good evening, city councilors. I'm Niles Kershane. I'm a real estate attorney. I work in Springfield, Massachusetts. My parents were married at the Mater Della Rosa Church. My children attended school there until they've graduated and now attend Holyoke High School. They received their sacraments there. I was very upset when the church, the decision was made to close the church, to merge the church. What I'm hearing tonight is a debate about closing one building, but that's not what's on the agenda. The agenda tonight is the creation of an entire historic district, and there was a lot of talk about the separation of church and state, and with a lot of the exciting things that I've seen happening in the city of Holyoke, new industry coming to, possibly coming to Whiting Farms Road, increase in the receivership program, things that are going to generate tax revenue. I look at this move placing restrictions on a large number of buildings that are not being renovated right now. A large number of empty storefronts that nobody is clamoring to get into a purchase and sale agreement or lease agreement subject to the creation of this district. I've heard no such offers in any of the meetings that I've attended. I don't understand why we're allowing a private dispute to turn into a public agenda that's going to affect so many of our buildings, and it will affect the tax revenue that we're able to collect from those buildings. I've talked to some counselors. Some counselors don't understand the effect that this will have. To say that there's no additional cost to renovating a property that's in a historic district is simply not true. If renovations are not happening now with no restrictions, and someone came to town and they were going to buy a property that was similar just outside the district or in the district, they're going to choose the property that's outside the district. That means that the other property has a less value. That means we're going to collect less taxes. That means that this debate has turned into a debate that affects all of us as taxpayers. The Holyoke district is being used to protect one building, and that's not what this should be about. And I've struggled with this terrible pun, but privately we should not let this holy matter become a yoke around our taxpayers' necks. This should be a debate about what is best economically for the entire district, not looking at just one building. Thank you.
And our last speaker will be Henry Jacques of 10 Muller Road. Henry? Is Henry with us? Oh, there he is. We'll wait for you, Henry.
Testing. Thank you. I am Henry Juck of 10 Muller Road, Holyoke, Mass. I have been a member of Mater Della Rosa Church for many, many years. I have also been a retired firefighter, DPW official, and also, whatever Joe says, I also am a director at the Polish Center of Ems College, and also a member of the Polish American Congress. an organizer of Holyoke Senior Picnic and the Mata Del Rosa Suppers. The Polish Heritage District will be good for Holyoke and will honor the sacrifices and contributions of many Polish immigrants. Mata Del Rosa were dead, and the hardworking Polish Americans made for Holyoke. I want you to vote for the district because it is good for Holyoke and the rundown residents and businesses need a church that needs an uplift. I cannot say it better than what 3 former mayors of Holyoke who said the following in support of the district, I quote, Mata Del Rosa Church has been the center of the Polish culture for generations. The Polish community has been integral to the vibrancy of Holyoke. It is impossible to imagine a paper city without MD. The parish gave to the city in ways no one can imagine, sponsoring teams, educating children, opening its doors to people of every ethnic background and diverse economic status. It would be befitting for the city of Holyoke to honor the gifts bestowed upon the community by the Polish community. Please honor the importance and heritage of this whole party of Holyoke by declaring the area under review as Holyoke's Polish Historic District. It goes beyond saying the matter. Del Rosa Church should be anchor of this designation. This would be an action of which we all can be proud. Signed, Michael Sullivan, former mayor of Holyoke. Signed, Martin J. Dunn, former mayor of Holyoke, former state senator. Signed, Daniel Shoskevich, former mayor of Holyoke. And also bringing in our sitting mayor, Mayor Alex Morris, had made it clear for years he would sign an ordinance from the city council to establish a Polish heritage historic district because that would celebrate part of the city's history and culture. I want to thank you, Mr. President, and the council for letting me speak in front of you this evening.
All right. Thank you, Henry. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the 6 speakers who addressed the council, and I want to thank everybody for being respectful to listen to everything those fine people had to say. We now could entertain a motion on item number 33A.
Motion to take up item number 33A. Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to suspend our rules to take up item number 33A on our agenda, which is a report from the Committee on Ordinance relative to this issue. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Let me read it. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40C, Section 3, that the City Council adopt an ordinance to establish the Polish Heritage Local Historic District, as recommended in the final report and shown on the map submitted by the Fairfield Avenue Local District. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Vacan, Bartley, and that is the report.
Thank you. Receive the committee report and adopt, pass the first reading.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and to pass its first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee voted 4-1 in favor of the creation of the Polish Heritage District and the map submitted by the Fairfield Avenue Historic District. The reason being, over the course of the past year and a half, we've heard from the public on multiple occasions. This clearly, as you see tonight, is an issue that has drawn the attention of many members of the community. And where the information and research that was brought before us led us was that this is really a tool for downtown revitalization and neighborhood preservation. And it was on those merits that the committee voted 4-1 in favor of the item. If I may take my time now to talk a little bit about my own personal reasons for supporting the district. I want to just first of all thank everybody for the high level of citizen support and community participation that this issue received. I wish that many of our city issues got the same level of attention from the citizenry. I also want to appreciate the work that Father Albert and the Lady of the Cross Church have been doing to keep the Polish culture and traditions alive at that parish. But I think that Father Albert made it very clear in his own words when he spoke at the microphone this evening that tonight's decision to create the Polish Heritage Historic District is really a vote about doing what's right for Holyoke versus doing what's right for the Lady of the Cross Parish. I'm personally not persuaded by the arguments that this could be a tool or a tactic to breathe life back into the MD Church as a church. But I am very much persuaded by the literature, by the information that's out there regarding neighborhood preservation and downtown revitalization. And these are the same smart growth principles that I've been running on since I came to the city in 2005. I put out a blog post on my website, votelisi.com, if anybody wants to check out these same points that I'll be making here tonight. But number one, I don't find that the Polish Heritage Historic District guidelines are overly restrictive or burdensome for the property owners. The guidelines mimic the ordinances that create and define the Fairfield Avenue Historic District, and in many cases are more relaxed in that residential district. There's fewer design features to maintain in this Polish Heritage Historic District than there would be in a residential neighborhood. Additionally, the guidelines apply only to modifications or improvement to the external architectural features that are in public view from a public way. Secondly, the Polish Heritage Historic District, the creation of such a district does not prohibit the demolition of buildings in the district. It doesn't prohibit the transfer or sale of any properties in that district. So if the Lady of the Cross Parish wishes to demolish the building or sell the building, they're fully within their right to do so. There's just going to be a process to go through to demonstrate that there is a financial hardship. That financial hardship should not be the line of argumentation that dictates our vote this evening. And I'll get to those points later. But again, the district does not prohibit the demolition, the sale, or transfer of the property. It just requires that the property owners go through a process before doing so. Third, the Polish Heritage District does not require or compel the property owners to make any improvements or rehabilitate their property. It is absolutely your choice. And when you make the choice to do an external modification that, again, is viewable by the public from a public way, it's only under those circumstances that you would have to think about the materials and have those materials approved by the Historic Commission, by the District Commission, I should say. And there are three different certificates that you would get from the commission. One would say these are appropriate materials, you may move ahead and go forward. One says that the things that you're going to modify, they don't really apply to the guidelines that set up our historic district, so we're going to just give you the go-ahead because they're not of import to this district. And third is the certificate of hardship, which says that although we would like to see you do something else, you've demonstrated that financially or for some other means, it's not a possibility for you to make those changes according to the guidelines that we set. So there are multiple avenues out. Fourth, and I think this is important, I think that we have heard many people over the course of this issue, as well as recently we had the St. Patrick's Day Parade. I know that the planning for the Hispanic Family Festival is underway, but we are a diverse city and we have been celebrating diverse cultures. The creation of this Polish Heritage Historic District is just the first of its kind. It is not about picking ethnic winners and losers. I think it's just a different way that we're looking to celebrate the Polish heritage of this city that does have a history in this particular neighborhood. And then finally, on the financial issues, I want to say that when I began this process, I was under the impression that the MD Church and, in effect, the Lady of the Cross Parish was not paying taxes on this property because it was a church, and usually churches are tax-exempt nonprofits. But I called up the tax collector, and it turns out that the property is being assessed for taxes. It's been paying taxes since 2013. However, the parish has not been responsible for the taxes. It's been the diocese that's been footing the bill for the taxes ever since 2013. That being said, the diocese, I understand, can relinquish the bill and hand it over to the parish. But when I spoke to the assessor's office and asked what kind of impact his historic designation would have on the assessment of that property, he said that it would have absolutely no impact on the assessment whatsoever. So whether the church stands in a historic district or whether the church stands without a historic district, the taxes and the financial burden to the Lady of the Cross parish would be the same. So I don't find the financial argument of the Lady of the Cross parish to be particularly convincing, especially in light of the fact that it's the same type of policies. It's not the same policy, but the same type of policies that work towards historic preservation, neighborhood preservation, downtown redevelopment, that have brought life back to the Holyoke Catholic School, which is now being renovated and rehabilitated for residential use. So again, I do see this as an effective downtown development tool. I think that we should be moving forward on this, and I will rest my comments there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed further to other speakers, if anybody wants to speak, just let me know. I did want to make one other acknowledgement since the chairman has now introduced the issue before us, and that is this issue regarding potential appearance of conflicts of interest. I did wanted to announce at the meeting that myself, I know personally, I spoke with the State Ethics Commission regarding my own self, in that I did file a disclosure after reviewing the matter with the law department. I believe two other counselors did as well, Counselors Tallman and Counselor Shatnoff. And Counselor Bartley. Okay, I was not aware of that, but that's fine. I know the three of us in particular happen to be members of Our Lady of the Cross Parish. This has been widely reported in the newspaper. It's been alluded to here at this meeting. I referred and spoke personally to the State Ethics Commission. There was no conflict of interest as a matter of law that involved my own personal financial interest. They did suggest that I file and recommended this appearance of disclosure of appearance of conflict form. This is on file at the Holyoke City Clerk's office. This was, I believe, excerpts of it were reported in the newspaper. Anyone is welcome to go over to the clerk's office and get a copy for themselves. It is a public document. I also, for myself, also disclosed the fact that I worked for the Sisters of Providence Health System, which is a Catholic institution. I am not an employee, however, of the Diocese of Springfield. Let me just make that crystal clear. And that was also put in the disclosure. So hopefully this has been alluded to a number of times by certain people that there's all these conflicts of interest out there. But I want you to know all of these things have been reviewed and vetted by the appropriate state legal authorities that investigate and review these matters. So please know those issues have been addressed. And again, I offer my public written disclosure at the clerk's office for anyone that would like a copy. So, Councilors Bartley, Shatnoff, or Tallman, would you like to say anything on this point, other than to acknowledge you, all three of you have filed a written disclosure? It's on file in the clerk's office. I think that suffices for the issue. Councilor Leahy?
Just very quickly, I spoke to our legal counsel. I go, my family belongs to St. Jerome's. My children go to MD, but she says I don't need to declare anything because we have no financial or I only give money.
Yeah.
We don't make any money.
No, right. And I think that's the point. There's no obligation.
money.
What I do or do not put in the basket on Sunday is not controlled by this issue. So, anybody else want to touch on any of the ethical appearances of conflicts, anything like that before we get going to the next speaker? Okay, great. So I think that we've gotten that out of the way. Anybody else would like to speak at this time? Councilor Valentin.
Thank you, President Jourdain. I'll start by saying that I am not a member of the Lady of the Cross, and I'm also not a member of the Polish community. I'm Puerto Rican. You all know that. And what I wanted to point out is that even though this is my first term in office, this is not a new issue. This is something that, as many as you know, because you've been passionate about it, has been around for a while. And so when I started reviewing the information that was made available to us as counselors, when I started getting the phone calls, the emails, the letters, I wanted to make sure that I could grasp as much of a story as I could in terms of the information out there. So a couple of things, and I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that Councilor Lisi said that I agree with because in terms of time, but one thing is I really do appreciate the interest that so many of you have in this, and the advocacy that many of you have shown. Just in the last 4 days, I've received 82 letters at my home, and those, with the exception of two letters, 80 of those 82 have been asking me to vote yes on this district. And I have plenty of those here. What I want to say is that in 2012, 2013, there were over 1,300 people that signed a petition. And that's what this petition is. And these are all signature pages. And I know you can't see it from over there, but they all look the same. There's over 1,300 people here that signed this petition. These are people that wanted this district to be established, that wanted to ask the mayor, the city council, excuse me, and the historic commission to put this in place. And when I spoke with some of the folks that have been involved in this initiative, you know, there's a lot of rumors out there that this is something that folks that are not from Holyoke want, and they're not the ones that are paying taxes, and why should their voices matter? Well, of these 1,300 folks, over 1,000 of them actually have Holyoke addresses. So we're not talking about a handful of people. We're not talking about 2 or 3 folks, you know, from South Hadley and Chicopee, and those folks are in here too, and we appreciate what they feel for our city. But to me, it's definitely an indication that this is something that a lot of people feel very, very strongly about. And that's where, even though I'm not Polish, even though I'm not a member of Lady of the Cross, or any church in this city for that matter, I go back to the historic value, and I go back to the culture. And I say that because I am from a tiny island, Puerto Rico, which has 4 million people on it, and there are actually several historic districts there. The most popular one being Old San Juan, which is an amazing tourist destination if you haven't been there. And when I hear people saying, well, these people don't even live there anymore. Well, guess what? The people in Old San Juan that established this historic district don't live there either. But if we didn't have this historic value, we wouldn't have the culture and the contribution that is there, the history, the past. And that is something that I think there is no reason, there's no valid reason in my book to deny that. And so the same way I see contributions from the Polish folks in this city, and I see contributions from the Irish folks, the French, the Puerto Rican, we all came here for one reason or another. And why not appreciate the history, the culture, and the contributions, instead of looking for ways to just erase that? And that's why I always go back to, this isn't about one church, this isn't about one group. This is about appreciating and embracing the diversity that our city has, and valuing the past, the present, and the future. Thank you.
Thank you, President Jourdain. I come at this issue from a little different perspective, but I find myself in agreement with the majority of the committee. I've been very close to this project for over 3 years, and it was about a year and a half ago where it looked like it would just move forward, and it wasn't particularly controversial. And at that time, it was seen pretty much as an acknowledgement and a recognition of a grassroots effort by a group of people who wanted to preserve a symbol that was of great importance to them and also what remained of a district that had once been much, much greater until urban renewal changed the face of it. And so I found myself having a great deal of respect for what I see as a citizens' initiative, a local citizens' initiative. And yes, there have been people involved in this from outside of Holyoke, as there are people involved in all of our great activities, our St. Patrick's Day Parade, our Latino gatherings, anything that you can think of has a broader reach than simply the city of Holyoke. However, with the formal communications that I've received, I have to say that the vast majority of them are from Holyokers, and the majority of people in the room tonight are Holyokers. And so I think we have to really recognize that when certain people in our community decide that a certain path has meaning, to recognize the history, the value, the contribution of a culture, that it's not really for us to judge how they do it. If it's done through a parade or a festival or a historic district, I think all those paths are great. And it's all what works for the people who commit the time and the energy to do it. So that's sort of the symbolic, historic take, along with the local initiative that I see this as. The other complexity to this, and I don't in any way wish to minimize that, has added to the very intensity and unfortunately maybe the greater level of anger that has been caused through some of the debate, and that gets into sort of the financial and practical aspects of it. I have tried to read as many of the studies as I have had time to, and I have personal experience just by virtue of being near a historic district in Springfield. And what I've found is that the historic district drew people to it. It drew people to it to improve the properties because they had an emotional reason for wanting to do it. And at the end of the day, we can be as logical as we like, but everything isn't based in logic. A lot of what moves people to do something is based purely on emotional and issues of commitment to a bigger thing than who we as one individual are. And so I think for me, that the symbols are important, that the initiative speaks to what is the best of Holyoke, and that it is not at the expense of any one group, that we would do this for one group. And, if those of us who have other backgrounds in our heritage wish to come forth and have other ways and methods of recognizing things in our city done, I hope people will step up. And I hope that they see this process as one that was more positive than negative, and that everybody that has had a point of view has been listened to, everybody has been heard, and while at the end of the day we're not going to agree on which arguments were most compelling, for me, I find the arguments of our local citizens the most compelling. I have heard from very many of them. I have heard in a compelling majority in favor of doing this. And while I hear the arguments that making a historic district will not attract investors, I have to say I've been looking at that area now for a number of years, and what we're doing now isn't working. There aren't investors coming down there, and I have documentation from over 80 people that they have interest and concern about getting involved in that district if it's designated in a way that honors and respects a culture. And I am putting my vote, my yes vote, on that line because I say, let's try a different approach. And let's call on the people who call for us to do this to then reinvest in this historic district, which I hope will pass tonight, and try a new path. and see if it leads to a revitalization of downtown, which we've all in the room and beyond, well beyond this room, spent a lot of time and energy to try to make happen. So I thank everybody for their feedback, their input. I've listened to whether you're for it or against it, but at the end of the day, when I weigh everything out, I'm in the strong yes column on this initiative. Thank you.
Counselor Alexander?
Sure, thank you. Where to start without being too repetitive? So I'm going to vote yes for this as well, and I would ask the rest of my counselors, my fellow counselors, to do the same. I know I'm not going to get 100%. Let me echo Counselor Valentine. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Polish. I'm a Scottish German mutt. I belong to neither of the two churches in question, one operating, one not. I'm respectful of and I'm grateful to Holy Cross, now Our Lady of the Cross, for embracing the parish of Meta Dolorosa, the parishioners that decided to move, and for offering services and a sense of continuity to those folk. That is one aspect of Polish heritage and the preservation of it. The other is more on a monumental kind of approach, which is to preserve a building, a piece of architecture. Again, a monument to that work. Councilor Valentine pointed out that the citizens petition had 1,300, I think that was the number, 1,300 signatures on it in favor of this district. I've gotten something like 135 letters from people, running about 80% in favor of creating this district. I've gotten, I don't know, 50 phone calls maybe, running about half and half, I have to say. About 75% of the people I've heard from are from Holyoke, so this to me is a local issue. It's people from the city responding to this issue. We have the support of not 3 mayors, not 4 mayors, but 5 mayors, 22 years, if I counted correctly, of mayoralty. Mayor Dunn, Mayor Staskovich, Mayor Sullivan, Mayor Pluto, Mayor Morris, all supporting this initiative. The arguments that it will cause a tremendous burden to the parish, I'm not persuaded. The diocese, which currently owns both churches, may choose to push the maintenance costs of a second church onto the parish. That's the diocese's choice. I hope they don't take that route, but they may. Either way, whether it's historic or not, somebody's got to maintain that building. If it were the Essex House, we'd be having an argument about how do we let landlords get away with not maintaining a building in the city of Holyoke. I have every expectation that the diocese is going to continue to maintain that church until eventually they sell it, which, frankly, if they don't have a use for it, I encourage them to sell it. Maybe Dennis Walsh wants to buy it and put condos in it. The historic district that's being proposed would not restrict redevelopment of the interior of the building in any way, shape, or form, would not restrict modifications to ensure public safety, would not restrict maintenance of the roof, which is one of the big expenses of that building. That's specifically carved out as an exemption to the historic guidelines. Would not interfere with redevelopment of the property for another use, a different use, and certainly wouldn't restrict the sale of the property, which again, if the diocese doesn't have a use for the building, they should put it on the market. I encourage that. To me, this really comes down to, we have an opportunity here to make a statement of respect for the contributions of the Polish community to this city, to building it, to creating the sense of community that we have here. Services at another church are a good thing, but the community itself is asking us to recognize this as a symbol of their contribution. I think we owe them that at this point, and I encourage everybody to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilor President Jordan, and also I want to thank Councilor Lisi and the rest of the ordinance committee and all the rest of the councilors for debating this for as many years as possible. I also want to thank all the people in this room tonight, whether you're for it or against it. You're standing up for something that you believe in, and for that you should all be commended. I also want to thank a person who we just recently reappointed, Olivia Mazel. I said the night of her reappointment that I disagree with her 75% of the time. However, I think she's one of the most tireless and vigorous workers in the city, and I still stand by that comment. She is one of the hardest workers, and for those people who are in favor of this, you should all be patting her on the back for the amount of work that she's done. I think she's done the most work on this. However, I want to disagree with Victor Anop, the good squire that he is. However, this is something we should be separating the church and state. Well, obviously we should be separating it. It's against the law. However, is that really what we're doing? We're talking about spot zoning and the YMCA parking, 21 spots. Now we're talking about building a historic district for one building. All right, so you're not going to vote for parking at the YMCA because that's spot zoning, but yet we're going to be doing a historic district with empty storefronts left and right for this beautiful church. And having said that, I do want to say what other councilors have said is there are certain things in the city of Holyoke that we have to embrace, and we do embrace. Whether you're French, Polish, Hispanic, Irish, we even have a couple of Hawaiian people in the city of Holyoke. We care about symbols, we care about heritage, we care about religion, we care about music and art, and this is what we have to embrace. You know, growing up, my parents came from, well, my father at least came from Ireland, and my mother was soon after, and they grew up in a block with French people, Polish people, Spanish people, of all ethnicities. And what did they do? They shared music, they shared food, they shared culture, and this is how I was brought up. I'm born and raised in the city of Holyoke. Not that that matters, but I think it does matter for the fact that I've been around. I have to, as I said earlier this evening, I do belong to St. Jerome's, which has nothing to do with this, and my children do go to MD. And I see Mrs. Rex, the principal over there, and we absolutely love her, and we love most of the people at MD. Some of the things I wanted just to bring up is, what will this district accomplish? What will this district accomplish? Let's ask each and every one of ourselves, what will this district accomplish? If we vote for this tonight, what exactly are we voting for? Are we voting for all these empty storefronts that could be eligible for community block grants now? I don't see anybody applying. Is anybody applying for these community block grants now? But if we vote for this district, people are going to be running down. They're going to be applying for these community block grants now? I doubt it. Now, creating this historic district will place restrictions on these empty storefronts, which is going to add another layer of politics. Now, we in this council, I say we collectively, keep saying how business friendly that we are, and this is something that I find very comical at times. However, we're going to add another layer to this place that, you know, how many people actually submitted the, I see a good gentleman over there with a nice folder. How many people actually turned in their surveys? How many people are we actually trying to help out here with these empty storefronts, with these absentee landlords? We should be going after these absentee landlords and trying to create more storefronts and try creating more business in this community. Now, one of the questions I asked Olivia the other night, and the good counselor, Chairperson Lisi, said we couldn't do it because it was part of the package, but I did get a correction from our city solicitor that we could, when I asked the question, if we could take out the church, and our good squire to the cross for me says we could take this out. So that's what I would recommend doing, just as we did with MD and the social center as well, if this is the way we want to go. What grant money is going to be offered? I don't know. I haven't seen a list of any grant money. What I did see was a lot of questions. If this happens, what exactly is going to happen to that district? This is not the Fairfield Avenue district where we're creating one sort of street that's going to look the same and have the same feel. If you drive on your way home, drive by this, it doesn't have the same look, it doesn't have the same feel. Now, in closing, I just want to say that this is a very important issue, and I certainly do, all the people standing behind me that have their heart and soul and their parents and all the historic value of this, I feel certainly bad for you, because it's certainly something I don't want to vote against tonight. I am going to vote against it. However, what I have to look at the future. I have to look at my children. I have to look at the future of the city of Holyoke. And unfortunately, I just can't vote for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you and kudos to everyone that showed up, and certainly all the letters we got and the phone calls and emails. It's been a very passionate topic. I'd first off like to say that I do believe this is more of a church versus state matter that really should not be at our feet. I think that just to go just from a factual standpoint, when Bishop McDonald decided to close the MD, there's a preliminary appeal. That appeal was upheld by the Vatican. Now we're waiting for a final decision from the Vatican. So basically, this is lying at the Pope's feet, what to do with Mater Della Rosa. If he decides not to make this a sacred ground anymore, that means we no longer can have Mass there. If it comes back and he decides that that the Friends of MD are correct, the decision was made in error, then the church will reopen up. It's not the intentions, and I do believe we're at this point because the sense is that the Vatican will not be voting in favor of maintaining this as sacred grounds, which would allow it to be sold to an Episcopalian, a Baptist, or any other religious faction that would choose to use this facility as a church proceedings. But if, and I don't know of any city councilor that signed on to this appeal. I mean, perhaps they did. I know myself, I've been MD, celebrated Mass there for years and years and years with my family. I used to ring the doorbell with my young children and go in there when it was still opened up and say my prayers so my children, God forbid the church was to be demolished, would be able to see the inside of that beautiful church, because it is one of the most beautiful churches, save IC perhaps. You know, I just do believe that, you know, when you decide to belong to something, whether it's a church, a gang, whatever you want to call it, you have to have leaders in positions, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them. As a soldier of the church, I mean, we have to follow the generals. And when generals make decisions with right, wrong, or indifferent, you almost have to follow those. Who knows where we would have been if the soldiers didn't follow the generals in some of the wars that we've been into. With regards to taxes, I heard taxes come up. The taxes will be paid by the diocese. It's actually called going into debt by the diocese. But once the Vatican makes a decision, all of that changes, and it falls on the Lady of the Cross to take on those responsibilities. Electrical bills, tax bills, gas bills, how to heat the place, maintaining it, all falls upon the Lady of the Cross. And I don't know how many have been to, well, I know some of us have been to Lady of the Cross. It's not a very youthful church as it was when I was growing up as a child. The diocese decides to close the church based on baptisms and based on funerals coming out of that church. From what the diocese has relayed to me in my questions of choosing MD, is that MD's baptisms and the baptisms were very low and the funerals were very high, which is indicative of a church that is going to have problems in the future if it were to remain open. We've also heard from folks that there was notice. I remember the pastor, it might have been Father Alex, maybe not, but it's talking about the financial hardships that we are facing at MD and that they would be looking to close the church. You know, and of the 63 property owners that went out to this historical district, 13 responded out of 63. 5 of them, of the 63 property owners, 5 of them thought this was significant enough to talk about. In the reports that I've gotten from the historical Christian, and Olivia Mazel does a great job and very passionate, believe me, very passionate about her work. Replacing the windows with historically appropriate windows should cost about $1,200 per window in one building. There's 48 windows in that one building, so we can do the math. There are approximately 6 entry doors that should cost about $1,500 to replace. I've put in many doors and many windows in my life, and I don't know of any that cost, windows costing $1,200 and doors costing $1,500. So those vacant buildings that we're talking about are going to have a significant economic impact onto whether they are bought and whether they are renovated. I mean, and as far as demolition is on the table, I don't see the diocese choosing to demolish that building. I don't see it making sense because that property is worth more if they sold it. You tear it down, it's going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to tear it down. Nobody wants to tear it down. Anyone from the diocese that I've spoken to, they don't want to tear it down. I don't want it torn down. But the fact of the matter is, tearing down is not an economical, business, sensible move to make. What they could do is they could do what they did to Holyoke Catholic. They sold it to one of the lowest bidders on that property with the guarantees that they would maintain the structural integrity. You drive by Holyoke Catholic, it's still got the cross in the front of it. It still looks like the high school that it was when it was alive and vibrant. So I just don't think demolition is on the table. On top of that, if they chose to demolish the building, we have a 6-month demo delay where we could revisit this entire historical district issue to enforce them and not to demolish this church, because ultimately I think that's what we're all here for. Or the Friends of the MD. You don't want to see that church gone. I don't think it has anything to making that district and saving those vacant, boarded up buildings. I don't think that's about this. What this is about saving MD. And if the diocese or the Vatican decides to keep those grounds sacred, what's going to stop the church from just boarding it up and letting it sit there? There's no obligation for them to have Mass in that church ever again, no matter what the appeal that comes from Vatican comes back. They don't have to have Mass there ever again. And I think that's perhaps what we want to have happen, but it's not in the cards. You've got St. Jerome's right up the street. You got St. Patrick's Chapel. I mean, at one time, Holyoke was thriving with all different cultures of Catholicism, and unfortunately, it's not there anymore. You go to church, and the youngest guy in there is my age. I mean, it's sad, but I think it's true, and I think that if we start setting this precedent where we're going to run to the Historical Commission to stop that. And I would say as a property owner, I do find some of the parameters that the Historical Commission puts on there, I do find them difficult. And certainly if they're talking about $1,200 for a window, I find that I'm out of the game. I'm not going to buy it. And I feel for the folks at MD, and as God is my witness, I went there hundreds of times for Mass, with my parents, with my 4 brothers. I went there ringing the doorbell to be let in for the vigils, to say my prayers. But I just think that, again, if you want to be a Catholic, you have to basically follow what the Vatican and what the bishop says, and that's real. Now, if they wanted to close Holy Cross, where I was born and brought up, it would affect me. But I would have to choose another parish to go to and have them celebrate Mass, because what's most important is not the ethnicity of the Mass; it's the fact that you're celebrating the Mass, not whether it's in Polish or Hebrew or French. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to approach this from a different perspective, if I might. I believe that property owners have a bundle of rights: right to sell, right to lease, the right to tear down the property, or do whatever they want to do under the law. I believe these rights will be severely limited by a historic district status. We can say whatever we want, but there will be limitations placed on the owners. I have not seen evidence that all or some of these owners are in favor or against the historic district. I do know that the majority of them have paid their taxes, and there are no liens to speak of against these properties, having checked on this information at the City Hall. Most of these owners are not residents of Holyoke, obviously. They are as far away as Alameda, California, Brooklyn, New York City, but they still have a right to be contacted and notified of all the ramifications in every sense of the way with this district. I also have a problem with the policing of a historic district, having checked very thoroughly over the properties located in the Fairfield Avenue Historic District, and noting that quite a few of those dwellings are in disrepair and have been for some time. In addition, some of the properties in the Polish Historic District are in disrepair. 56 Pine Street, the block is boarded up and is for sale. The small dwelling at the corner of Pine and Lyman is marked with the red and white X condemned by the fire department. 53 Elm Street block is boarded up. The Marks building seems to be a shambles. There's no information in the packet except for windows or doors that offer a cost analysis of what it will take to bring these buildings up to standard. Consequently, I will vote no on this historic district.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also begin and thank everyone, regardless of where their feelings, views land, for participating in what's been a very long process over the last 3, 4, actually going on 5 years. And not just the letters, the telephone calls, I apologize to those I could not get to in person, but the articulate conversations that I've been able to have, and I think most of us have been able to have with a number of different people in this community. And it's not just the Friends of Monte Della Rosa, it's not just our Lady of the Cross, it's people across the city that are watching this closely for a lot of good reasons, and I think that's important to keep in mind. I also like to begin to say, my wife Jenny and I belong to, I still say Sacred Heart Church, but known as Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish, which is already 4 parishes plus 1. When Our Lady Perpetual Help burnt down, we were yoked to them, and we became 1 parish. They already had Precious Blood, which Councilor Jordan will remember was torn down sometime in the I think early 70s. The Precious Blood is, or I'm sorry, IOC is about to be, well, I shouldn't say merged with this, but it's our sister church now. And the first Spanish Mass was done in Casa Maria, and Casa Maria is not a church, but no longer a parish, but part of our group. And it's an incredible diverse way of practicing one's religion. Last Saturday night at the Easter Vigil, we had 30 young adults make their baptism for the first time beyond the normal age of being baptized. We had an almost equal amount of First Communion candidates, and there was 10 confirmation candidates, and I was the proud sponsor of one of Holyoke's finest, Brian Chamberlain, who made a promise and kept the promise to his mother to be confirmed. I say all this because I feel for both Monte Della Rosa, Our Lady of the Cross, and not just feel but understand what we are going through as Catholics, what we are going through as Hoyokers who practice the Catholic faith and throughout the Pioneer Valley. These stories are on and over. I think all of us have friends, other family members who have witnessed what has happened, and I'm not being critical of the church, but what has happened in many different cases. 4 or 5 years ago, Olivia, a group came to us, to the city council, and said they had an idea about a Polish district, and they showed us a draft plan of the church in Kosciuszko Park, and I think maybe it went to the convent. I'm not sure if it went to the school. And I said it then, and I'll say it now, and I've heard it in the words of some people this evening, is that would have been nothing more than the city becoming involved in the debate of what's happening with the closing of church. And I don't think we belong in that debate, although it's impossible to separate ourselves, or at least not to recognize that debate is ongoing, and part of what we're doing this evening is because of that. But what we did say was, we need more. And the Historic Commission went out, I believe at the time Mayor Pluta charged the Fairview Avenue Historic Commission to be a study group and to put a plan in front of us that had a little bit more teeth to it and a better idea of honoring, and I grew up on Beach Street, of honoring, the Polish heritage and what took place in this neighborhood here, and what was, quite frankly, I think a big part of it, destroyed by urban renewal and never rebuilt by the federal government, despite all the promises. And I do believe that's important. I have no problem voting for a Polish heritage district. I have no problem anyone honoring and participating in ways to honor their heritage. But we said it had to be more, and I think over the time there was a good effort to make that happen, but we collectively failed. What we have in front of us does not meet the mark of what we set out to do. It sounds like it, the Polish Heritage District, that it's about everything that we talked about, but it doesn't. And the flaws happened when the Fairview Avenue Commission allowed 4 or 5, but I'll just note 3 property owners to get out of the district. One was Old Holyoke Development, Mike Biardi at 61 Chestnut Street, because he was fearful of what he had to do to that building to keep it renovated. The other was 9597 High Street, the funeral home on 16 Maple Street. Pizza de Action was one. I think we all recognize the building itself is one of the newer buildings in the area, and certainly could understand the not wanting to participate in the district. But it's a flaw because the diocese came to us and asked out. They've not been allowed to take their property off the books, off the project itself. The diocese said, we don't want to be part of the historical district itself. Whether we agree with that or disagree with it, I think we all recognize without Monte della Rosa Church, there is no Polish historical district. So we fall short there. The economic catalyst part, this was on the back burner because of the lawsuits that are going on. Councilor President pointed out part of it, and the Supreme Court of the church is hearing the argument of why this church should not be demolished and should not be sold. And until that argument is resolved, how can we talk about an economic catalyst that cannot be fulfilled if Monte della Rosa Church and the property is not part of the plan itself? So it's, I take my own responsibility. I think collectively we've made a good attempt, and I'm not being critical of the redevelopment committee which started this, the ordinance committee which has brought it to this point, or the Fairview Avenue Commission which works very hard, or the Friends of Monte della Rosa, the parishioners of Our Lady of the Cross. What I'm saying is it's not ready yet, and I cannot vote for it in this form because it'll do a disservice to all the things that we're trying to do, whether it's honoring the Polish, whether it's an economic catalyst, or whether it's just the right thing to do. It's not ready. And at this point in time, I cannot vote for it.
Thank you, President Jourdain. And I'm going to say the same thing I said when we had the YMCA vote, when everybody had a chance to speak. Today's not our day. So what we're going to do at the end of this is we're going to still shake hands and we're going to respect each other no matter what. We need 10 votes, and you can tell right now there's just not the energy in the room. It was the same way with the YMCA, but we had a civil discourse that night and a civil conclusion to it, and I anticipate nothing less because I know how you all are. So, but I still want to make a few remarks right now, Mr. President. And I respect everyone's vote here, and I respect every counselor in this room, no matter how they vote. So I just want to make that clear. There's a couple things. Let me just note. First of all, on this whole thing about non-Holyoke, I'm glad Josie brought it up. I'm glad Gordon brought it up. I just want to speak from my own perspective. I have 88 letters here. 70 were addressed by people from Holyoke. That's about 80%. The phone calls and emails. I think I replied to every one. I don't think there was one person to whom I didn't give a thoughtful reply to, pro and con. So I want you to know that I really respect all your input. This whole thing about the issue came up earlier. It didn't come up tonight about open meeting law, potential open meeting law. Put that out of your minds, okay? Now the open meeting law, it's a quirky law for sure. But that was raised in some of the discourse we got from the diocese. The law, as my brother counsel noted, he quoted it exactly right. The one part I would just point out, section 23B of that law mandates that any complaint be filed 30 days within the date of the alleged violation. So if the Fairfield Avenue District met in 2011, 12, 13, 14, and they filed a complaint now, they're going to be laughed out of court. So there's no open, now maybe they did it, I have no idea, but because of this mandate in the law, there's no open meeting law argument. They would be kicked out of court. So put that out of your minds. Not going to happen. It's a loser. Let me just, while I'm on that theme, the church-state argument. This is a creation of Massachusetts general law that we're following here. This is not something we're making up. But the church-state argument was argued a couple times in federal district court when it came to Our Lady of Hope Church on Carew Street in Springfield. It lost at district court. The diocese appealed. It lost on appeal. So the church-state argument, put it out of your minds, it's a loser. It's already been asked, answered, lost. That's gone. So, and not that that's going to change anybody's mind, but I just want to say the question's been litigated. Precedent says no go. what would this accomplish? I can't say it any better than what Linda said tonight, so I won't repeat that. Her comments were, I thought, spot on. Let's give it a try. On the on the issue of a survey, that's almost laughable. How many of us vote? What's the turnout? I know you do. You're a good voter. But I don't mean anybody specifically. As a percentage of the body, how many people vote? Yeah, I know folks don't respond to surveys, but I mean nobody votes. So who the hell's going to respond to a survey? I mean, I just think that's a non-issue. On the more interesting topic of demolition, though, and I'd like to conclude on this point here, Mr. President. I believe the bishop. I believe Father Albert. There's no intent right now to demo it. I also believe that there is an issue of taxes. And when the bills keep piling, and as Rebecca pointed out so succinctly and perfectly, that the taxes are going to go on regardless of how this vote turns tonight. I mean, the property tax invoices will still be submitted to Elliott Street in Springfield, and Elliott Street, I assume, will still pay them. But at some point, those bills are going to get a little bit high, aren't they? And at some point, it just may make sense that why pay taxes on a building that's not going to be used, that the diocese can't sell, and demoing that building, while it may cost a little bit of money to begin with, in the long run, the demolition of that building is going to be a tax benefit to the payer. Now, I also raise that because the diocese has shown no humility when it comes to demolishing sacred sites. It's happened at St. Joseph's in Springfield. It happened at St. Anne's in Westside. So the precedent's there. Now, it's true that we could do a demo delay, but if you want to ask for a lawsuit, that's when you do a lawsuit. Somebody pulls a permit for a demo delay, and then we turn around and try to pass a historic district ordinance. Now you're begging for a lawsuit. There's your argument right there. Talk about capricious and arbitrary. Goodbye. And there's a lawsuit for the city of Holyoke, and we all know how much we love those. I really respect everybody's opinion on this. I feel a fair and open-minded counselor on just about every issue, and this is no exception. To me, the majority of the weight falls in favor of voting yes on this, and that's what I intend to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. I agree with Councilor Bartley that the votes are probably not there this evening to create the district. However, I do want to respond to the question that's raised regarding, what does this accomplish? What does this accomplish? And when we had I believe he's called the president of the Historic Commission of Springfield, Bob McCarrollin, to talk about the benefits that the McKnight District has created in Springfield. What he had to say is that it's like an insurance policy for the neighborhood. It's really the way that you get to know that the investments that you make in your property are not going to be in vain, because the neighbors all around you are going to be required to make the same types of investments in their properties. So I do, again, see this as an economic development tool, because it says that the neighborhood is going to be assured that when somebody comes in to make an investment in one property, the current owners or new owners of adjacent properties are going to make similar types of investments. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question in terms of protocol, a point of information. So, as a procedural matter, if this petition is voted down by the council, can the petition be brought before the council again, or does 2 years have to pass? Alternatively, if it is tabled pending the results from the religious procedure that is underway, that seems to be a large obstacle in terms of the comments that have been made by counselors, procedurally, if that was done, could somebody just inform us as to what the implications would be?
Carrie, you want to touch on that? Or?
This isn't a zoning ordinance, so would be no prohibition on the council considering another order to adopt the ordinance. I mean, as far as tabling that, I mean, that's kind of up to the council, I guess.
Let's put it this way, if we were to vote it down, there's no preclusion from raising it at a future date either.
Right.
Right, well, that was my question. I just wasn't
If
sure
circumstances changed.
where something like this fell in terms of that. And because for those of us, and I include myself in that category, that don't really understand all the intricacies of the church dynamics, I'm viewing the building, because it's paying taxes, as a church building that is no longer a church. So that is how I'm viewing the property matter. So from where I'm sitting, that's how it's being treated in the city, but I'm hearing and am understanding that there is that whole other complexity to it.
Just to touch on that point, the issue of the taxes in the church is because under the law, you're required to be actively using it for the purpose that you have the exemption. They're not holding services there, so therefore you were allowed in the statute 2 years of this inactivity before you lose. So when the church closed in 2011, in 2013 they started to have to pay taxes on it, so the assessors handed them the bill. Still a church, no question about it. But the fact of the matter is the bishop would have to resume having services there on some semi-regular basis in order to re-invoke his tax exempt status.
Okay, and from the economic point of view, the only other comment that I would make is, as the property owner, whether it is a church or is not a church, it seems that based on all the comments about where the economic liability would fall, that will happen to the other church, regardless of whether there's a historic district or not. Because as I'm hearing it, under the church law, assuming they still own the building, then that responsibility will fall to that parish, whether there is a historic district or there is not a historic district. So just from that point, I'm not sure I see a big difference. Thank you.
Councilor Alexander?
Thanks. I just wanted to touch on one point very quickly. I heard the argument made that the district boundaries aren't perfect, and so we should reconsider the entire district because I think a funeral home got left out or asked to be left out, and another building that OHTC owns has to be left out. I just want to be careful that we don't let the perfect become the enemy of the good here. If those two buildings are not just historic, but critical to the Polish heritage of the area, we can certainly revisit the boundaries and through a petition process, get those two buildings included into the district later. So, we're 85–95% of the way here with two buildings missing. Let's not throw the whole thing out just to say, let's try and pick up those two buildings later. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I just want to state that this has been a long process. It's been a long time that we've been dealing with this issue with these churches, and I'm sitting here today thinking, and I see the sides. It's like we're two different sides, and some of my best friends I grew up with are Polish. Henry Juck is one of my biggest supporters. I grew up on hanging out on Taylor Street with the Trepaches and the Zerniaks and the Jarzinas, and this is a difficult decision for me to make. But when we're looking at a church, isn't a church more than just a building? Isn't a church its people? Isn't what church is about is our faith and what we do and where we worship? Holyoke's lost several churches, and it's too many to count. I mean, some have burned down, some have destroyed, some were demolished. I don't see this church issue, this historic district, really saving this church. I don't feel that this is going to be a building that's going to be saved because we make it historic. You know, as I stated, it's one building, you know. And I know that whole area. I've lived in the city all my life, and I know that whole area on Lyman Street and Maple Street and Chestnut and Elm. And, you know, as Councilor Grady stated tonight, a lot of those buildings are boarded up. A lot of them have the X on them, and, you know, some of the storefronts are empty, you know. You know, at one time it was a thriving area, thriving industry. The stores, the shops, as we stated, Mr. Koss and Mr. Anup, it was a thriving neighborhood, you know. But things change, and buildings change, but I look at it today. Should our faith change? You know, should we look at something as our faith and saying we could worship anywhere? You know, I've been a member of Holy Cross for close to 54 years, and Our Lady of the Cross for the past 3 years, and you know, I've seen the inclusion of the Polish people and the Polish heritage, and some of the people here that want to save Mata della Rosa actually go to Our Lady of the Cross Church. And when I heard them state that how it's important for them to keep our parish and to look at how things have blended, you know, that's important. And I really respect all the comments by my counselors here tonight, and the people that really saw this issue and made it really a passion, and respect the letters I got in the mail from people that are really encouraged by this district, and also from people who feel that it's really gonna harm another church, you know. I really commend the work by Rebecca Lisi and the ordinance committee for the past 4 years, going on 5 years on this issue. But I think it's time to move on, you know, with this, and to put this behind us, and to work together, and to grow together in our faith, and to realize that isn't the church more than the building? It's about us, and it's about the people. So I cannot support this historic district tonight, and I hope I really ask my colleagues to really consider that. You know, a church is more than a building. Thank you.
On the motion. We move to motion.
I'd appreciate the deference of the body if they'd suspend the rules to allow me to make some brief remarks about this issue.
Brief.
I'll try.
Second.
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 Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to allow the president to address the issue. All in favor?
22.2 seconds.
Aye.
Thank you. I just wanted to go through my prepared remarks. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I think because of the fact that I have been, you know, studying the issue and listening to what everybody said, and I have not prepared any prior statement. I wanted to explain my vote at this time. The question of establishing a Polish Heritage District at the present location, including the former properties of Mata della Rosa Church, is one which has been before us for now going on 3 years. I'd like to compliment everybody for the thoughtful discussion and conversation on the issue. People have really worked hard to examine both sides of the issues, and there's a lot of very strong opinions on each side, and everybody was, for the very, very most part, very respectful of everyone. With few exceptions, the dialogue has been generally quite respectful. The passion, obviously, on something so deeply held, opinions on both sides of the issue, clearly. Truly genuine and thoughtful people can come down on both sides of the issue, and therefore it's no surprise this evening that you're going to see the membership is likely to come down largely on two sides of this issue. Tonight, a decision, though, however, will be made so we can move forward accordingly. The council is presented with the question of whether we should place a number of new additional restrictions on some 20-plus properties, including Mata della Rosa Church, and further designate this area a Polish Heritage District. The primary rationale for the creation of this district is that the Mata della Rosa Church must be preserved and not allowed to be demolished by its current owner, the Diocese of Springfield. The hope of the vast majority of the people who are supporting the creation of the new Polish Heritage District, as I've come to understand and listen carefully to all of the arguments, is that if these restrictions are placed upon the church, then the church will be less likely to be sold, will be less likely to be demolished, and more likely to again have services restored in the church. The vast majority of the people advocating for this change are former parishioners of the parish who oppose the diocese's decision to close the church. and merge it into Our Lady of the Cross, and therefore move the parishioners over to the other church. There's no dispute that the Bishop of Springfield owns the church and its associated properties. All sides agree on this point. The decision to close the parish is a decision exclusively reserved to the bishop, and the bishop made this decision for better or for worse, based upon what he felt was in the best interest of the faithful. Therefore, the triple purpose of creating this district, no sale, no demolition, or to restore services at the church, can be solved basically through a three-layered analysis that I'm going to try and go through as quickly as I can. One is a religious answer to the question, one is a historical answer to the question, and lastly is a civil answer to the question. Firstly is the religious question. I am first and foremost very deeply disturbed, I think like a lot of other colleagues here, by the prospect and precedent of the city council being used to solve religious questions. This is not our purview. The notion of creating restrictions on zoning and otherwise of this nature to circumvent the lawful authority of the bishop to make decisions that he is empowered to make is alarming to me. The city council should be never used to interfere with the internal functioning of any religion. This is not our role. For example, if the rabbis of Holyoke decided that one synagogue versus another should be opened or closed here in the city of Holyoke, I would not expect the Jewish people of Holyoke to say, well, let's call the one that they're closing a historic district. This is not what the city council does here. And for anybody to have told you that has given you false hope. This is not to be done. Unfortunately, that was done, and people believe that if we pass this, all these array of wonderful things are going to come trickling after this vote. I'm sorry to tell you, that will not happen. Proponents, no matter how well intended, are seeking to take the authority away from the bishop in an internal church matter and overturn that decision through some civil process here at the city council, forsaking his authority to make a decision and seeking to turn it over to us. And so in Latin that is called, qui discernit, who decides? Who has that authority to decide which church and parish is open here in Holyoke, or for that matter in any city throughout the United States or the world? Well, one thing we do know as Catholics is from the teaching magisterium, and again I'm presented with a religious question, so I'm going to give you a religious answer. And the question is that from the teaching magisterium of the church, the authority has been invested to it by Jesus Christ himself. In Matthew 16:19, he gave the church and the Pope the keys of the kingdom to make these decisions. That leaves little doubt to the question of who decides what Catholic church is open or not. It's not the president of the city council, it's not the members of the city council, it's the Bishop of Springfield, the disciple of the apostles, right? The successor of Peter. This is who makes these decisions. And as Catholics, we should all know this. We may not be happy with it, but this is the decision we all must respect. And so the answer to the question of who decides as a religious question has already been decided, and there's nothing we can do to unring that bell. Unfortunately, as compassionately as I can say that, I wish I could give a different answer. As far as the historical significance of this question, which is raised to us here because we're asked to make a historic district, if the issue is about respect for the Polish people, that is unquestioned here in Holyoke. No one here, I will vote to pass any resolution to signify the respect and honor that we have for the Polish people. I think as a matter of history, no Christian people in modern times has suffered more than the Polish people. How you could possibly suffer more than Poland, who has been divided so many times in our history, when I think of surviving Nazism, of communism, of all that the Polish people have been through, then we're presented with this. A church, a building, as Councilor Tallman has alluded to. The bishop has asked apparently that we want you to go up to Our Lady of the Cross or some other parish. That's not what we wanted to hear. I don't want to see any church in Holyoke close. And any of the ones that have closed in the past, none of them want to be closed. But this notion that from a historical perspective, after all that the Polish people have been through, how outrageous of a sacrifice is it to be forced to go to another parish? I know that from a cultural and historical perspective, that's minuscule compared to the other hardships that have been suffered. When you think of people, when I grew up as a kid, I learned the stories of Father Maximilian Kolbe, who was had to say mass in a concentration camp with nothing. What church did he have? What church did Jesus have, for that matter? These are questions that I ask. We don't want to get lost in the buildings. We got to be strong in the faith. As far as the civic question, I do get to vote on that because I've been elected to this office. And so therefore I'm forced, for better or for worse, to have to make a decision. And easily I like to make decisions because it's usually one side of the camp that I totally agree with, and then there's the other side that I totally disagree with. But on this one, I have wonderful people on both sides, and so I think for each of the people here tonight, this is a very difficult decision. I did commit to say 2 years ago that I would oppose any of the demolition designed for this thing. I went personally to speak to the bishop. The bishop called me as well afterwards. I made it crystal clear that we need to do everything possible not to see this building demolished, that it must have a reuse. He committed to me to do that, absolutely committed to me to do that. I believe Bishop Rosansky is a man of honor. I believe the man, when he says it, he's even put it in writing. I don't know what more can be said on that point. But nevertheless, if that turns out to not be the case down the road, we have other measures to address this issue in the future. One of the questions that can also be revisited is this issue about once the Vatican makes a decision, this issue could be readdressed if all the things that we're basing our decision on here today turn out to be not the case. So don't give up hope in that regard. But I think as we look at the issue of no demolition, this should be our goal, to save and preserve the building. This is not the method to do it. I tell you this why. Because the best way to save this church as a building is to have it resold to somebody else. Based on what I have seen from the diocese, they have no intention of having services there again. So if the goal is to preserve the building, it will be to preserve it with some future reuse. I'm just stating the obvious. And so that is what the bishop has committed to do. And if we want to all collectively save the building, and this isn't a religious issue, separation of church and state, it's just about preserving the building, that is the best way to do it. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who would be more likely to purchase it with all the restrictions that people are seeking here for us now to do this. We're not to be used to leverage points with the bishop. That's not what we do here. We're here to make civic answers to civic solutions, not to be the last court of resort in some religious battle with the bishop. That is not what we do, I'm sorry to say. I wish I could tell you a different answer. So when we're trying to hope that the building will be saved, and I think based on what the bishop has told me and the people that are the parishioners have stated, I believe that is ultimately the best course, and I think we all need to heal in this process, come together and work to preserve the building and to find a new reuse. Maybe there's someone in the group of the parishioners want to purchase the building. I don't know. Maybe whoever wants to have a future use of the building. But ultimately, I think that is going to be ultimately the best course of action here, and that's why I'm going to vote accordingly. I do want to say a couple other things that distinguish this historic district, and I supported the Fairfield Avenue district previously. There we had a situation where pretty much everybody wanted to be in the historic district. Everybody came to us, they said, because I was very skeptical of voting for the Fairfield Avenue historic district. This is the only other historic district we have in town. But literally, except for one person who really, it was absolutely overwhelming. Everybody wanted to be in the historic district. Now we are presented with this. Only 5 out of 61 people who were asked to be in this district wanted to be in this district. That's the fact of the matter. And so that's unfortunately the situation that we're presented with. I think the other thing is I did want to state for the record that Mayor Pluta is stayed neutral on this. I think her name was used earlier as is in support. She has not taken a position yes or no. The other people were quoted correctly. So to wrap up, that's my position, and I think everybody now has had an opportunity to speak. And Councilor McGee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your 22 seconds is up. Just kidding. You gotta bring a little levity to it. I mean, coming into this meeting, people have called me, emailed me in the letters, same as everyone else. I've stayed neutral on it. I haven't given an opinion as to for or against, because I wanted to listen to everything. This is a very hard topic, because the real issue is everyone's right. That's the hard part of this. Everyone in this room is correct. However, I'm going to mention a date, and I had to confirm it with you so I get the date right. April 27th. Anyone? April 27th. Why is that important? That's when they're going to decide on the schools. Start looking at Holyoke, not just on your issue, but all the issues. April 27th, the state is coming in to tell us that they know how to do it better to teach our kids and that our teachers are not doing well. I don't bring that up to side skirt the issue, but if you start looking at everything that's going on in the city, we keep, beating on each other. And they have the outside influence of people looking inside saying, what is going on in that city? We are all right. And at the end of the day, whatever the vote is, as someone said, shake hands and we'll come back and revisit it. My issue is, should we have a historical district? Absolutely. If that's just the question, I'd vote for that right away. The issue is when you look at everything that's going on, it is about a church, and what we're doing is we're taking the historic district and we're cloaking it over the church to try and protect it. I don't know if that's good or bad. It sounds good on one side, on the other side there's pros and cons on both. To me, the outpour of support for or against should be the same thing I see April 27th at the high school. Come to that high school and fight for your kids, fight for your teachers, fight for everybody. And set the precedent going forward that we're going to do it all together. Which then goes back to the issue, how do we do it together? I think Joe has said it correctly. It's not ready yet. There's still more work that can be done. Does that mean I'm voting no because I don't believe in a historic district? No, I just told you I'm absolutely in support of it. But is this, the final package, correct? We can do more. Of which, I know, don't table it, put this thing to bed. No, if we haven't had a ruling from the church yet, if they do come back and they go against what they've told us, we have a mechanism which to go forward to try and protect it. I know, Kevin, what you said, and I always respect you said the bishop owns it. There's nothing we can do. It's just a church. To this half of the room, it's their church. When I spoke to Henry, and I spoke to Henry Jacques for over an hour on the phone, listen to the history, listen to the pride and the love in there. That's what they're looking to protect, and therefore that's why I'm saying, is this the right mechanism in order to do it? I don't think we're ready yet. And that's why, if I'm forced to vote on it tonight, I'm still back and forth because both answers are right. But to me, since I don't think it's ready yet, I don't want to vote on it tonight. I want to see what the church comes back with. And if the church says to us, hey, look, we're not going to open up again, we're not going to do anything, do we go this way to help protect that? Maybe. But if we are going to vote on it, the issue to me is I'm voting on a package that, to me personally, doesn't seem to be complete. And that's where I'm having trouble with it. So I just want to tell people where I stand on it, but at the same time I ask the public, everyone who's involved, please, we have to start working together, because if you don't, the state's looking in saying, we'll do whatever we want. School, I just bring up as an issue because it's right there. In April 27th, I'm not asking you, I'm pleading with you. Every single one of you should be down there. And when the state asks you, are you a parent, do you want to keep it within your control, raise your hand. Show that support. Because moving forward that way, I tell you, that's how we rebuild Holyoke. That's how we move it forward. We do it together. I know it's a lot of emotions tonight, but I'll tell you right now, if we don't start coming together, things are just going to keep falling apart. So for me, I'm still in that quandary. I defer to the rest of you. Like I said, every one of you is right. It's the hardest vote I'll take tonight.
On the motion.
On the motion.
Good. So, motion is on adoption of first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Oh,
Motion to pass second reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Bess, we'll keep it to the final.
roll call.
On the final vote. We're gonna have a roll call vote on the final vote. Okay. So just procedural, if we can get through this. Motion on the floor has been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion.
Motion the passage be ordained. Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. A yes vote is to adopt the committee report, which is to adopt the committee recommendation and to approve and create the historic district. A no vote is to deny that. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Alexander,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
No.
Shatna,
No.
Graney,
No.
Jordan,
No.
Leahy,
No.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern,
No.
Soto,
Yes.
Tolman,
No.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
7 yeas and 8 nays.
By your vote, you've denied the committee report and denied the request for a historical. Okay,
Mr. President, if we could just have a minute while
Yeah.
people clear, because
Yeah,
we're not
take
going
it.
to hear anything.
we won't call recess, but we'll give people a minute.
Talk to him then, I can't. Yeah.
Liz got it. What's that? Oh, Liz at the school department. She'll take care of it.
Oh, good night.
Hey, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to
Be a
worry
long
about
one.
that. Get it from Liz.
Have a good night, sir.
No, just say we'll, at the next meeting. Letter.
Right. Which, I agree with you. Nobody brought up too, it's the 1,386 day of the closing. 1,386 days since the, yeah. I mean,
I had the flu. Hey, listen. I said, I told my son, he said, no problem. He's in Okinawa. And he said, oh, he's having a blast. He landed there 6 days ago.
not new, actual. Cheers. Alicia,
Hey, take care.
Jimmy. It was a very good game. I would like to see Wisconsin. But, you know, I forget. I think they stopped counting after 14 lead changes.
I don't think you'll need it. So I hope not.
Kevin, but there was still the geriatric building.
To my knowledge, yeah. The question is, what happened to the rent? All the escrow rent, too? Because they held it saying, we don't know where to send the check. Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of all that. Okay, I think we'd like to get going now.
Nice meeting you guys. Take care. Thank you. Good night. Crack that whip.
All right, here we go.
Michael, wake them up. Get them out here, will you? All right, make a motion. We keep number 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3 on the table. Okay, so make up item number 4.
We don't even have a quorum at the moment.
We were in recess.
Nope.
No.
I see 13 people. How do we not have a quorum? Yes, we do.
Okay.
I need 8.
Jimmy, just want to do CDBG, get Alicia out of here.
I can't hear you.
I'm just going to do CDBG, get Alicia out of here.
All right.
Yeah, motion suspend.
Second that.
Take
8.
8 and 37A up as a package.
Second.
Motion's on the floor to suspend the rules to take up items 8 and 37 as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. And to take them up now, let's see here. Item number 8. Item number 8 is a communication from Alicia Zeller, who's the administrator of the Office of Community Development. In it, she articulates attached to the recommendations of the Office of Community Development, Citizens Advisory Council, as well as the mayor and the Committee on Development and Government Relations. This matter is now before the body. The full embodiment of that has been sent to the Committee on Development and Government Relations, which is agenda item number 37A. The committee to whom was referred the Development and Government Relations recommendations for the Community Development Block Grant have considered the same and recommend that the committee recommendations be adopted. This comes to us from Councilors Bartley, McGivern, Alexander, LeBron, Martinez, and
A
Valentine.
motion to adopt the committee report.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and to adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
And then if I would just like to do it now, if I could make a motion to allow Alicia Zeller from CDBG to address the council.
Second the motion.
Okay. Just briefly, I assume.
Yeah, and just for the purpose, I just want to have the vote on that in case councilors have questions. So I just,
Oh, okay.
I just intend
So
to
it's
give
a standing invite in the event if needed.
Yeah, I just want to give a very abbreviated report. So,
Okay, motion on the floor is to allow Alicia Zeller to address the city council if needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved on this issue. Councilor Bartley?
Mr. President, thank you, and thank you to Alicia Zeller, thank you to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and thank you truly to the committee, because that was a almost a 3-hour hearing, and there was just a lot of really important questions, a lot of give and take. Alicia was kind enough to mail out, and Madam Clerk was smart enough, I didn't even ask her, smart enough to get this out, the spreadsheet out to everybody last week. So the hope is that you've had a chance to at least scan it, if not digest it. And I think what you'll find there is except for one small change, and technically it's not small, but basically we approved the mayor's recommendations, and I think that the council knows this, that we are simply making a recommendation to the mayor. I mean, the mayor can pretty much hold every card on this. So I think he's going to hear us loud and clear. My sense is that the mayor is going to pretty much go along with what we've done here as far as our recommendations, because they mirror his, but for one part, and I just want to point it out, and there was some great give and take that night, and I didn't even support every vote that was made, but ultimately I'm coming down to tonight that I'm going to vote to support the DGR committee's recommendation. So if you just look on the first page on their public facilities, you'll see Pulaski Park improvements. That took about $100,000 hit from the mayor's recommendation, but it's really in line. Actually, it's over what OCD and CAC recommended, and Pulaski Park, and we did this with the consultation of the Ward 1 councilors. So I want to make that perfectly clear. We had a colloquy that night, and there was great give and take, but we didn't try to overwhelm the Ward 1 councilor. We really did it with respect and understanding, and I think what we got out of this, some really important things. The code enforcement, blight remediation, how that's going to work with a really exciting program that Linda had a great order a couple weeks ago. We all joined it, and we had a great discussion in public safety the other night about a remediation program. Well, this code enforcement officer is going to work hand in glove with an improved remediation program that's going to be working out of the city solicitor's office. Really exciting stuff. If you look on the second page, second and third pages, we got some important feedback from some. There's not one undeserving entity on here, Mr. President, not one. But the one we sort of took hold of was Women's Shelter Company LLC, and for whatever reason, CAC and OCD kind of knocked them down a little bit. The mayor increased them. Well, we kind of pushed that up for a lot of struggle to a pretty healthy number, and we're really hopeful that this committee, city council, will support that, and so will the mayor. And there's one last thing I want to point out. I really want to thank Josie and Joe in particular. I think they were. I didn't necessarily agree with it that night, but you'll see on the third page there's a community policing order, and the request is $50,000. OCD cut it in half. CAC agreed. The mayor cut it down to $0. And I kind of tended to agree with the mayor, because thinking, I think the arguments that Joe and Josie, particularly Josie, made that night were, listen, we can get community policing if we act on this now and if we get funded for the summer months when we really need the men and women of HPD to be out there walking the beat. So Mr. President, with that, I just want to point out that we have to make a vote on our recommendation. Then we also have to make a vote, Mr. President, on the Joe, what is
The home funds.
on the home funds, the resolution.
There's a separate resolution. I do have it here.
Okay, so there's two votes that we have to make. So I'll defer to any other committee member, and I yield the floor. Thank you.
Sure. Councilor Alexander.
Thank you. I just want to say I do sit on DGR along with Councilor Bartley, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make this meeting. But I'm also on the Citizens Advisory Council to the Office of Community Development, and I did make that meeting, and that was also a great meeting. And I think between the two, I'm very supportive of the final recommendations coming out of DGR. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Councilor Bartley and Councilor Alexander summed it up well. I just had two quick things. We're yes, accepting of the grant, and our recommendations go with that. And of course, we're adopting the resolution to accept the home funds. The sad part, the sad part first is if you look on the end of the block grant itself on page 3, the total available funds are $1,649,157. Of that, $550,000 are unprogrammed dollars that are being returned. The grant this year is $1.1 million. Kevin, 20 years ago when you started, it was closer to $5 million.
That's right.
30 years ago, it was closer to $7 million. I think we had $8 million the original year. My memory's not as good as it used to be. The federal government is not recognizing how important this grant and these funds are to communities like Holyoke. If you look on the left-hand column, there are association, city, whether it's the city, public service, private sector, there is one group after another, all worthy of the funds that block grant monies can provide. We only have so much. We did our best to make the recommendations comparable to what the mayor can live with. The mayor makes the final decision. We ask that you support, the full council support, be in line with the DGR committee. Thank you.
Councilor Greenie.
Yeah, just to agree with Councilor Bartley, that women's shelter, that grant, that is probably one of the most important areas that we have here in the community, along with community policing. Those directly get out and they do a great job, you know, in contact with the people in the community to make our streets safer for all citizens.
Councilor Tallman.
I think great minds think alike. I was just going to say that. The women's shelter, especially Compañeros, I know I got some letters and talked to some of the people in that program, and it's very important that that money be there at the 18,000, and hopefully the mayor will keep it there in the future. But I appreciate you doing that.
Excellent. Anybody else who wanted to speak on this? Okay, very good. Oh, I'm sorry,
President?
Councilor Alexander. Yep.
Just as a matter of procedure or whatever, anybody who's is on the board of any of these agencies or something, we should just declare that before taking a final vote.
Okay. Councilor Leahy.
I don't have the list directly in front of me, but I do want to make it known that I'm in several boards. One of them is the Boys and Girls Club, the Holyoke Merry-Go-Round, probably not dealing with this, but I think we have an office in the city of Holyoke, Westwood State Foundation. I'm also the president of the Volleyball Hall of Fame.
You're busy, Jimmy.
The St. Patrick's Parade Committee, the MD PTO. I think I'm forgetting a couple of them. The Holyoke Youth Soccer, Holyoke Youth Basketball.
So one or more of those is getting money under this. What do you want to do in light of that?
I guess do it separately.
We weren't planning on taking.
But you have no financial benefit, though.
No, like I said before, I only give money.
So I don't think it precludes from voting, but I think as a matter of appearances, declarations.
Just check with Kara before we vote, and you just make decisions on that. Anybody else want to make either any conflict of interest or changes or anything or statements?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Pro or con, Councilor Greenie?
Yeah, I'm busy, but not quite as busy as Councilor Leahy.
Mr. President, I'm on the board of Tech and Women's Shelter Rents Unit, in which I'm a part shareholder.
Sure. All right. Okay, so whoever is going to be voting, we shall begin that process right now. Without further debate, the first vote is going to be on adoption of the committee report, which is to approve. Council Leahy?
Yeah, she said there's no problem with any of the boards.
Okay. All right, so the first vote is going to be on adoption of the committee report, which is to adopt all of the DGNR recommendations on the spreadsheet, okay? So that's what you'll be voting. That is going to be by a roll call vote, and without further ado, the clerk will call the roll, and yes vote is in favor, no vote is against.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? Shatna? Yes. Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yeah, yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yep.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Soto? Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've adopted the committee report, and I'm assuming that we're also going to have a separate motion on the home, or,
Motion to adopt and approve the resolution?
okay?
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution adopting for the federal fiscal year 2015 annual plan covering the Community Development Block Grant Program and the Home Investment Partnership Program. I do have the resolution in front of me. I'm just gonna, I believe people should have a copy of this, or you should have gotten a copy in your packets. I'll just read it briefly, it's only one page. Whereas the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended provides financial assistance to units of local government through the Community Development Block Grant Program for the purpose of undertaking activities to develop viable communities, and whereas Title II of the Cranston-Gonzalez National Affordable Housing Act created the HOME program to strengthen public-private partnerships to facilitate the development of affordable housing, and the cities of Holyoke, Chicopee, and Westfield have formed a consortium for the purpose of participating in this program. And whereas the city of Holyoke has been advised by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, that Holyoke CDBG entitlement amount for the program year beginning July 1, 2015 is projected to be approximately $1,099,157, and the consortium home award is projected to be $797,977, which will be distributed per consortium agreement as follows: Holyoke $421,333, Chicopee $256,150, Westfield $120,494. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Holyoke as follows: that the 2015 annual plan be adopted, including projected uses of funds and all understanding certifications and assurances therein, and that the aforementioned CDBG and home funds as approximated be accepted in furtherance of the purpose of the 2015-2019 consolidated plan, and 3, that the mayor of the city of Holyoke be designated as the authorized representative of the city and be directed to act on the city's behalf in connection herewith. Motion on the floor is that this resolution be adopted. This will be by a roll call vote. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatna? Yes. Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've unanimously adopted the resolution, and that is there for the clerk to take care of later.
Mr. President,
Yes.
can we proceed out of order, take up item number 32, the applicant's here?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up the petition of David Roman for a new special permit for a flea market to be located at 60 Jackson Street. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, second. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to go to item number 32 now. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 32 is a petition of David Roman for a new special permit for a flea market to be located at 60 Jackson Street. Looks like by reading this, he's seeking a special permit for a flea market.
Is that ordinance, Mr. President?
Let's see here.
Public service.
Mr. President, permission to suspend, allow legal to approach?
Okay.
Second.
Kara?
This is a
special permit under the zoning ordinance, so you need to have a public hearing that has to be advertised. It can't be acted
Well, this is
on
going to
tonight.
committee. This is coming in for the first time.
Oh, that's fine. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if that's what was happening,
Oh.
so I was trying to let Counselor Alexander know that it needs a
Sure.
public hearing.
Yeah, so it's just a question of where the permit,
So
where
make a
the
motion
hearing
for
for
ordinance,
ordinance, please.
It's a zoning, it's a zoning.
Motion for ordinance.
Okay, motion on the floor has been made and seconded to receive the matter and refer it to the ordinance committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance.
Just, if I may, Mr. President?
Yes, Council Lisi.
Thank you. Since the petitioner is here, I just want to make it clear that there's a process for setting a date and then advertising the public hearing to hear the reasons why the special permit is being sought. So the applicant needs to be in touch with our administrative assistant and vice versa. So since they're there, I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay. So you can stop in at the clerk's office and certainly our offices, which are over here. You just walk around Monday to Friday, and you can walk through the process. Okay? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, which brings us to our tabled items, starting, we have 1, 2, 3 on the table.
Motion to take them up as a package.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up these 3 items as a package and to remove them from the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Noes have it. We're off to public comment we already took care of, and now we're on to communications, of which we have quite a number. And starting with, take that that way, that brings us to item number 4. 8 we already took care of. Okay. Item number 4 is a communication from the mayor. It's him requesting that we name the Jones Ferry River Access Center in honor of Sue Ellen Panage.
Receive and send to ordinance.
Ordinance or public service?
Public
or-
service.
I would say public service, huh?
So second on public service.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and refer to public service. I don't think ordinance needs any other items that they don't have to have. Okay, all in favor of referring over to public service?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Mr. President, could we suspend take 5 and, I'm sorry. 5 and 49 as a package, because they're the same thing.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to suspend our rules, to take up now items 5 and 49, and to take them up as a package.
Just, if you, just give an abbreviated reading for 49.
Okay, with an abbreviated reading of number 49. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Also moved. Okay, 5 is a letter from the mayor requesting that we approve a sale in an RFP to sell to East Hampton Savings Bank the property located at 170 Sargent Street in the amount of $5,000. Item number 49 is an order introduced by Councilor Bartley, which says to do just that the city vote to accept an offer from East Hampton Savings Bank in the amount of $5,000 and sell 170 Sargent Street for that amount.
And a motion referred to the DGR committee.
Okay?
Second.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded to receive items 5 and 49 and to refer both of them over to the DGNR committee under discussion. Councilor Green.
Just quickly, could you give me a ballpark where that 170 Sargent Street is?
Directly across from the
Senior
senior center. I
Okay.
believe it's the site of the old,
Holyoke Annex?
CVS.
Holyoke Can, yeah. it's-
Okay, all right, thank you.
Oh, so you're all set?
He's all set. And so motion on the floor now is to receive the 2 items and refer them to DGNR.
Yes, Mr. President?
Under discussion, Councilor Brown.
So it's just so I know Howie knows where it is, because Howie's on it, but the property sits in between the CVS on Beach and the senior center. And so that was a property, if this council recalls, about a year or or 2 ago now, I forgot, where a company wanted to come in, and the CVS Corporation, due to a restrictive covenant in its deed that it received from the city of Holyoke, was able to stop the development of that parcel at 170, at 170, it was a company, Sargent Street, sorry. So it was a company called Dollar General that
don't let the name fool you, it's an $8 billion corporation. And so CBS stopped it per this very unusual clause in its property deed. And but this body, after it went to DGR, took this up and put this parcel out to surplus. And it's also diagonal from the Armory, if that helps anybody further. So we will take this up at our hearing on Monday the 13th at 6 p.m., among other things. Thank you, Mr. President.
And what was the offer to purchase on the first proposition?
Was it
Recall that
200?
number?
It was 200-something thousand.
250, I believe. This one now is for 5.
Yeah, it was 250. So CBS said, "Sorry, guys," because they could do it, and so now East Hampton Bank is coming in with a slightly lower offer. But
Slightly.
That's business friendly.
See what effect restrictions have on the value of a property?
oh, it's incredible. But we'll talk about that next Monday.
All right. So, and there we have it. So, all in favor of referring both of these items to DGNR?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so moved. Okay, item number 6. Item number 6 is the minutes of our previous council meeting from March 17th.
Motion to receive and approve.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive these minutes and to approve. Any discussion?
I have a correction.
Sure. Councilor Hamilton?
Under the YMCA item, the wording about what it says that I said.
Okay, what section are we?
It is, let's see, page 3. I think it's the 4th paragraph down.
Okay.
It says, Councilor Valentine spoke in opposition to the zone change. Councilor Valentine read a letter from the YMCA to its membership that she stated does not specify parking as the only use for the parcel. Councilor Valentine reiterated that to pass a zone change would be to take part in spot zoning, which is against state law. This was a very contested issue, and I don't feel comfortable with the wording that's included. I don't think it's fully accurate.
What would be accurate?
So it would be, yes, I read a letter from the YMCA to its membership, but my point about reading that was to say that when the YMCA sent this letter to their membership and talked about parking as a possible use, it was way before they came to us with a request for a zone change. That was the point that I was making by reading that. The other piece is that I spoke at length about how folks were saying that the planning board had voted 4-1 in favor of this zone change, but that 4-1 was really not as clear as it looked. And I remember clearly reading quotes from planning board members that confirmed that there was some emotionality. So, and that's not even in the comments. So, nothing against the clerk. It's just I feel that it's not representative of what that conversation was, and I would like the record to be accurate on that.
So,
Motion to table pending clarification.
Yeah, I want you to table and give us some suggested language at the bottom to
Second.
consider the next meeting. Councilor McGivern?
Excuse me. I also would ask for a correction, Mr. President, on the same topic. The gist of what I said, I understand we're just summarizing after some.
Also on page 3?
Also on page 3, about the second paragraph, halfway through it. The gist of what I said was about the YMCA, but the gist of what I said and the points I made were that it's the bigger picture that was the importance of the ability to adopt the zone and not be a spot zone, and that's the impact the YMCA, positive impact the YMCA has on the neighborhood, on the city itself, the fact that it's part of the master plan, part of the urban renewal plan, the fact that it's when you look at the total picture, the importance of the YMCA is what makes it allowable to adopt the zone. And I understand I did talk about the size of the parcel, but I think the last sentence is what bothers me. If we could just modify that a little bit.
Okay, what would you suggest?
Listening to the tape and just verbatim what I said.
All right, so we'll table that.
Condensed.
Why don't you, Ryan and yourself will discuss your remarks
And just to clarify, I'm sorry, I said the clerk, and this is the narrative from our administrative assistant, so I just wanted to clarify that. That's, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yep. Council Barley, you want to revise your remarks?
No, I was going to say if we take stuff verbatim, we're going to run out of trees in the city. So let's just kind of, it's a fair and accurate summary.
So motion on the floor is that we table till our next meeting pending these different suggestions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Item number 7. Item number 7 is from our acting city auditor, Bellamy Schmitz, the monthly budget reports for the general fund and wastewater treatment plant as of January 31st and February 28th.
Receive and refer to finance.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded, to receive and refer to finance. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Item number 9. Item number 9 is a communication from Marcos Marrero. This is a letter regarding 216 Appleton Street and the Brownfield cleanup project. He's telling us that the project has been substantially completed.
Receive and refer to DGO.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made, second, to refer this communication to the DG&R committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 10. Item number 10 is a communication from the DPW superintendent regarding parking garage revenue on St. Patrick's Day weekend.
Receive.
Motion received.
Motion's that it be
Second.
received, tells us that just under $4,000 was raised. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor that it be received?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Communication item number 11 comes to us from Jack Farrader. It's a letter regarding the Holyoke Gas and Electric Department land on Whiting Farms Road. I believe we've received this in the mail recently.
Receive
Mr.
and
President,
refer
can
to
we,
ordinance.
can we suspend the rules and take 11 to 17 as a package?
We haven't gotten
No.
to
That has to go to ordinance.
Okay. Perhaps, yeah, so, so motion on the floor is to receive and refer item 11 to ordinance. Any discussion of that? Counselor McGivern.
No. I didn't think it was.
It's against the IP, or the overlay. It is a protest letter
Yeah.
against the
Certainly
other
appears
zone
that
change.
way. I mean, for example, if you look at page 2, he certainly goes into grounds for protest, and then he articulates a series of 4 reasons, and then comes up with a conclusion
It's a protest on the RM20.
regarding RM20, yeah. Okay. So,
On the motion?
Yep, the motion is to refer to the ordinance committee. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I meant 12 to 17.
Sure. So motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up 12 through 17 as a package. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Under discussion, Counselor Green.
Mr. President, I just wanted to make a point, return back to, number 10. And once again, I think that was, responsibility of, Councilman Bartley to sponsor the legislation to raise that money. So once again, that's $4,000 in Hoyoke's pocket, thanks to him.
Yep. Thank you, Counselor Bartley. That and Holyoke Day, and we're in good shape.
Good job, David.
You're all right, guys. Thank you.
Now, if you can save the schools for us, we're all good.
That's it.
Motion to receive.
Okay, motion on the floor is
Second.
that the item number 12, which is the Board of Health
12 through
minutes.
17.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just going through them. Board of Health minutes of November 3rd, November 18th, 2014, and February 10th, 2015. The regular minutes of the Conservation Commission from Andrew Smith. These are from January 8th, January 22nd, February 12th, and February 26th, 2015. Item number 14 is the minutes of the HRA, Holyoke Redevelopment Authority, for their regular meeting and annual meeting of November 19th, 2014. And item number 15, which is the Board of Public Works minutes from February 10th, and the Sewer Commission minutes of February 10th, as well as the Stormwater Authority minutes of February 10th. Motion on the floor is that all of these be received, 12 through 17. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So
Mr.
moved.
President?
Mr. President,
Yep.
can we, suspend the rules?
Yeah, 18 through 21.
All renewals?
Yeah,
Got
well,
30.
those were all home
Everything's
occupations, so I figured just clean those up at once.
They're all
Yeah.
renewals.
All renewals.
To 30, yeah.
Unless anyone wants to separate something out, sure.
Unless anybody wants to take one out, we can do those as a.
No, I was just breaking out the home occupation ones from the business renewals, but either way.
All right, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take up items 18 through 30 as a package and to consider all of them as a package. And we will vote one vote on the entire package.
With an abbreviated reading, please?
Yes. Item number 18.
Can you verify the taxes as you go through them too?
Sure.
So I have to go through them twice.
Item number 18 is from Kendrick Williams. This is a renewal of his home occupation at 97 Locust Street for a landscaping and lawn care business. I'll just tell the body if I see anything that appears to be an issue. If I don't say anything, you know it's okay, according to powers that be. Item number 19 is a petition of Michael Mastriani for a renewal of his home occupation permit at 12 Winterberry Circle for a computer and networking business. Item number 20 is a petition of David Hager for renewal of his home occupation permit at 74 Lawler Street for a printing and brokering business. Item number 21 is a petition of Delaska Hoey for a renewal of her home occupation permit at 7 Line Road for a chair massage business. Item number 22 is a petition of the First Baptist Church, the Grandma's Attic Thrift Store at 1976 Northampton Street for renewal of their second-hand license. Item number 23 is a petition of Goodwill Industries located at 235 South Street for renewal of their second-hand license. Item number 24 is a petition of Eco ATM located at 50 Holyoke Street for renewal of their second-hand license. Item number 25 is a petition of Mimi May of 83 Ridgewood Terrace, Springfield, for a renewal of her second-hand license for a business that she has at 324 Appleton Street called the EZ Exchange. She's seeking a second-hand license application renewal. Item number 26 is a request of Record Town Inc., FYE number 725 of 50 Holyoke Street, that's the mall, for renewal of their second-hand license. Item number 27 is a petition of Antonio Robles of 64 Magnolia Avenue. He's seeking to renew his junk collector's license. Item number 28 is a petition of Ivory Billiards Lounge located at 151 Chestnut Street. They're seeking the renewal of 19 pool tables and 1 billiard table license. Item number 29 is a petition of Yazir Osman of Metro Taxi. He's seeking the renewal of 5 taxi cab licenses. Everything appears in order for those. Item number 30 is a petition of Faramars Barhamundi of Yellow Cab. He's seeking 7 renewals of taxi cab licenses. The cabs are housed in 622 Cottage Street, Springfield. Everything appears to be in order with item number 30. Those are the items that are before you for your consideration. Any discussion on any of those, one or all? Hearing none?
Hey, Mr. President?
I'm sorry, who just spoke my name?
I did.
Oh, Councilor Bacon, go ahead.
I just said motion to approve.
Okay,
And I had a question.
so why don't we, motion to,
Second the motion under discussion.
yeah, to pass the first reading and to, approve the, granting of those licenses. Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Under discussion, Councilor Alexander.
Thanks. Just a quick question on 30. If taxis that are servicing Holyoke are garaged in Springfield, we miss out on the excise tax, correct?
Yes. Yeah, because usually it comes through from as a committee report and we adopt it on 2 readings. But we're adopting them on the floor. Yeah, go ahead.
It was just a,
Sorry, what was your
a
question
question.
again? I
Just
got
that
distracted.
if these taxis, these 7 cabs and presumably the 4 new ones,
Yep.
are garaged in Springfield but servicing Holyoke, then we get the wear and tear on the roads and Springfield gets the excise?
Well, to pick up customers here, they have to have a taxi cab license. as far as our excise tax, I think that was your question in there
Yeah,
somewhere.
so that's
That
all
goes
gone
to
to
Springfield, that goes to where they're principally garaged.
So this is just to pick up, this doesn't mean the business is here or anything else, this is just to be
Correct.
able to service the city of
You
Holyoke.
need you need a
Okay,
taxi cab
thank you.
license to pick up. You don't need a license to drop off, but you do need a license to pick up.
Thank you.
Yep, Counselor Graney.
Just a quick question, on these cab licenses, are they individual, do they have to pay a fee for the individual cars, or is it just one flat fee?
One per license, fee per license. Huh?
One per vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Also moved. Second reading?
Motion passes
Second reading, grant the renewals. This will be by roll call vote. If there's no other discussion, clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting all the items that were listed, items 18 through 30. A no vote is to deny all of those.
Alexander,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Shatna, Graney.
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee, McGivern, Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your unanimous vote, you've approved all of those renewals for items 18 through 30. Which brings us to item number 31. Item number 31 is a petition of Faramas Barramundi of Yellow Cab for 4 new taxi cab licenses. Finance?
Receive, refer to
Finance.
finance.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, receive, refer to finance. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Also moved. We'll dispense with the president's report for this evening.
Just one quick
Like
question,
the
Mr.
time-
President,
Yeah, sure.
regarding the president's report.
Yeah.
Any update on the, not the treasurer, the other one? The one that we keep kicking down the road, the auditor, thank you.
Auditor.
Oh, auditor. Well, here's the update on that is that soon, very, very soon, I'm told from the last meeting that I had with the mayor, that the finance department rollout is gonna be coming out very soon. If not the next meeting, the meeting right thereafter.
Gotcha, so that appointment is on hold pending that whole reorganization.
Yeah, because there's a view that that position is gonna be rolled into another position.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Okay, reports of committee, 33A, we know that one's done.
So I'm gonna do everybody a big favor and take up 33B through 33G as a package, as they're all amendments to the traffic ordinances.
Right.
Oh, sorry, it's 33C, 33C. I need to deal with B separately.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. So we're gonna suspend it, we're gonna just do 33B now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to
All
that.
right, so a motion on the floor, okay, let me read it first. Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an application for a special permit for non-conforming use at 1553 Dwight Street for the Pride Limited Partnership, have considered the same, recommend the special permit be granted. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Bacon, Bartley, and Shatna.
Receive the committee report and adopt.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. So this is the old Citgo station across from American Rug. What they're doing is they're revamping the entire gas station and putting in a convenience store with a drive-through. So they're really thinking outside of the box here, but a lot of their numbers show that this is going to work for bring new customers into the Pride station. What's going on here is that they're going to be tearing down the existing building, which is already non-conforming, and building a new building that is actually less non-conforming. So the footprint of the new building that they're building is going to be more within the buffers that are required on the site, more so than what is currently existing. And since it seems like the building that has been there for the old Citgo station was able to be built and didn't cause any problems, is not intruding onto any of the other properties in any way. We felt that this is going to be a positive economic development project in that area. It has support from American Rug and as a neighbor in the area, and people are really looking forward to this project, so we are voting in favor of it.
Any other thoughts? Okay. All in favor of adopting the committee report, the clerk is going to call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of granting the special permit and approving the committee recommendation to do just that. A no vote is to deny it.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatnoff?
Yes.
Graney? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy? LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Valentine?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've approved the special permit for them. And the next motion on the floor, if I understood it correctly, was to suspend the rules to take up items 33C, D, E, F, and G as a package.
Yes, please.
Okay? Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules for that purpose. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Just going to walk you through these quickly. 33C is a report from the Committee on Ordinance, and that is that a handicap sign be placed in front of 11 Temple for Temple Street for Christine Belize. 33D is that an order that a no parking sign be installed in the dead-end area of Brown Avenue, specifically in the area near number 2 Brown Ave and the house next door at 274 South Street be adopted. 33E is that the stop signs be placed at the end of Roberto Clemente Street at the intersection of Adams Street, that be done. 33F is that the Committee on Ordinance, to whom is referred to, the no turn on red sign on Brown and South be modified. And 33G lastly is that, to whom was referred in order, that no turn on red on Hitchcock and Northampton be modified, and that change be put forward. These are the committee recommendations to you. Motion on the floor is to adopt all of these committee recommendations. And under discussion, Councilor Lisi?
I'm not sure, but I was under the impression that they may need ordinance changes.
Yeah, so
Can I
we're gonna
pass-
pass the first reading.
Yep.
Okay, so motion on the floor is to pass the first reading on all of these.
Second.
Under discussion, Councilor Lisi?
Thank you. So 33C is the handicap placard. This was filed by Councilor Soto. The Commission on Disabilities reviewed the application and the site, gave us the approval. We are adopting it into legal form. 33D is putting a no parking sign at the end of Brown Ave for the winter months only. I believe it's December through March. Because it's very difficult to plow that end of Brown Ave, and so we want to make sure that the plows can get through, clear the area for the neighbors, and also for the traffic coming through Brown Ave. 33E is stop sign due to limited site visibility at the intersection of Roberto Clemente Street and Adams Street, filed by Councilor Bartley, if you'd like to add anything to that. No turn on red sign at Brown Ave is now being modified between the hours of 6 and 8 a.m. and in the evening between 4 and 6 p.m. So that you would not be able to turn right on red between those hours, but otherwise you would be able to turn right on red, clear some of the traffic in that area, keep it moving. Also filed by Councilor Bartley, if he'd like to add anything to that. And then finally, 33G is a no turn on red sign on Hitchcock Street and Northampton Street to reflect the same time changes that were just mentioned in the no turn on red sign on Brown Ave that we mentioned above. That should do it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any other questions, discussion, Councilman Gibbon?
If we could vote on 33G separately, I'll be voting against it, and I'll explain.
All right, motion on the floor is to separate 33G from the package. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Any other discussion? Councilor Bartley?
Just on this 33F and G, I just wanted to, if I could, make a motion to amend, to change the morning from 6.
33G is not on the floor anymore.
Okay, 33F, I apologize. Well, then that's fine. If I could make a motion to amend that, to change just the morning from 6 to 8 to make it 6 to 9.
Second.
Okay. It currently in the proposal is what hours?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And the request is to amend 8 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Second to
No,
that.
from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I think you said.
Yeah, right, so it's gonna amend, yeah, right, so I'm amending the back end of it.
I see.
Yeah,
Second.
Instead of
Add a
6
second.
a.m. to 8 a.m., it's going to now read 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's the amendment on the floor. There was a second to that
Yes.
under discussion. Counselor Bartley?
No, it's been vetted by engineering. He's okay with it.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? All in favor of adopting the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. So that 33F is amended to add that additional hour in the morning. We're now back to the package of 33C through 33F. Any other discussion?
And could I make a comment on 33E, please, Mr. President?
Okay.
That's, it's obviously Ward 2. But Tony Soto joined the order with me, and that came from a constituent who works in that area, and just want to point that out, that's all.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the first reading as amended?
Aye.
Opposed, so
Motion
moved.
pass second reading.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded, to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion to ordain the passage.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to, that the passages be ordained on all of those. There is no further debate. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting all of these changes. A no vote is to deny all.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatna?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yep.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've approved the ordinance changes. 33G. Committee on Ordinances, to whom is referred, in order that the no turn on red sign on Hitchcock Street be, at Hitchcock and Northampton be modified, have considered the same and recommend that the order be adopted. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Bacon, Bartley. And the
Motion pass first reading.
the legal form is not attached, by the way, to the,
We didn't get any legal forms.
just FYI. Huh?
Oh, because it's
So what do
modifying
we
it's modifying the current sign. So the sign has already been created by ordinance, and so
So this is to change this.
This was already a no turn on red, and we were changing the no turn on red to be only during certain hours.
particular hours, yeah.
Yeah, so there was no ordinance change required. So it's legal advice we got.
Was there originally an ordinance to say no turn?
Yes, it was a package deal many years ago.
Okay, so if there was an ordinance umpteen years ago that said no turn here, and now you say no turn here except X hours, that's a change to the ordinance, right? I would think so. I think we might want to, did all the others have no ordinance changes, no ordinance language on them either? or-
It's probably because E and F, F and G match one another in terms of just the sign modification.
We might want to reconsider our action on F and have that drafted into legal form. Okay.
I'd like to, motion to reconsider our, actions on F.
Second.
Okay, and
I'd like to take up, 33 F and G as a package and send, to the legal counsel for legal form.
Second.
okay, motion's been made and seconded to reconsider our action on 33F. Secondly, to refer 33F and 33G to the law department for review, to have ordinances drafted up for those two, and then have them come back to the body.
I think we actually already did refer them to legal form, and so maybe they just need to be tabled, pending.
Well, I think this will be fine. They'll
Either
bring
way.
it back to us when it's done. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
33G. The reason I'm opposed to 33G, and I'm not a big fan of no turn on red, and I understand and commend what Councilor Bartley's doing and what people are asking, but when we originally did a no turn on red, it was a package deal across the city, and we argued that there were too many of them, and we eventually eliminated a lot of them, and then we modified some of them. The one thing about Hitchcock Street and Northampton Street, which I travel 2 or 3 times a day, is there's a safety issue, and that's if you want to come out of Hitchcock, taking a left onto Route 5, going north on Route 5, you're blind, you have a blind spot, number one, and it's caused by a tree, a traffic control, the fence that is right up to the sidewalk, and it's a limited sight distance you see as to what's coming down south on Route 5. The second part of the safety issue is the lights are modern traffic signals. And the turning to green is delayed where it's actually blank for a fraction of a second. And I've seen too many times cars come flying through it thinking they've got a green light because they got the green light at Westfield Road and not realizing that whole intersection works together to allow that pattern of traffic to flow through easily. So I think as much as I don't like no turn on red because I love to go right on that and I never do, to go with my coffee at the cafe down the street, I think it's a safety issue and I would ask that we would keep the no turn on red 24/7.
Councilor Green?
I agree with Councilor McGivern on this issue. There's also another safety issue. There are children crossing back and forth from the Blessed Sacrament Primary School to the junior high school too on a regular basis, so a stop sign there is a good thing.
All right, so motion on the floor at this time is to reconsider our action on F and to take the F and G package and refer back to the law department for revision and legal form and then for future consideration at the next meeting. Okay, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Okay, 33H is a report from the Committee on Ordinance to whom was referred an order that the department head positions appointed or elected, the supervisory group currently designated no regular hours be designated to a minimum of 35 hours per week, be available to the public when City Hall is open. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be amended to read, ordered that all elected or appointed supervisory or professional employees shall work a minimum of 35 hours per week. No elected or appointed supervisory or professional employee shall take on outside employment that would interfere with the regularly scheduled hours at City Hall unless otherwise performing official city business or taking approved leave. All such employees shall generally be available to the public at their City Hall office during regular City Hall hours. Recommend that the order be adopted as amended. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Vacan, Bartley, and Shatno.
Motion to pass the first reading.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and to pass its first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Lisi.
Thank you, Councilor Jordan. I'd like to actually remove my name from the committee report. I was questioning, I was like, I don't remember this coming up. It's because my husband is the building commissioner. He's part of the supervisory group.
Okay,
And I
so you don't want to
stepped
do
out
anything that impacts him?
And I stepped out of the room at the time.
Sure, no problem.
So I'll hand it over to Councilor Alexander, who managed the conversation when this came up.
Thank you, and I'll just, for the record, I'll be scratching out your name per your instruction off the committee report.
Thank you.
Okay, under discussion on first reading, Councilor Alexander.
Thank you. This was simply to prevent lumbar syndrome. It was pretty straightforward. It's just saying that if you're a fully scheduled municipal employee and you're in the supervisory group, which isn't covered elsewhere in our ordinances, that you need to work 35 hours a week and that you need to be in City Hall unless you've got a good reason to not be there. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's clean language. I would recommend that we adopt. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
I agree with Councilor Alexander. I think it's a good order. I find his comments, lumbar syndrome, kind of funny. But we also had another incident of this last couple of years too, with our city solicitor. I remember we had a part-time city solicitor as well. So this has been happening. This seems to be kind of like a trend. So I think this is a good order that the ordinance committee did. You guys are a hardworking committee, and I echo it. Thank you.
Councilor Graney.
I'll move the question. Let's move the question.
Okay, Councilor McGivern.
I'll be voting in favor of it, Mr. President. And I think Councilor Alexander made the point I asked in committee is the language is fair. It also is flexible in terms of department heads who may be performing their duty, like assessors out in the field, city solicitor here with us for 7 hours on a given night. And of course, any department head is called before the city council at some given time. But I think it's flexible, but at the same time fair and sends the correct message.
Sure. Just want to state for the record, Councilor McGee will not be voting or participating in the discussion on this issue and will be abstaining.
In fact, he ran to hide.
Successfully, I know. Okay, motion on the floor right now is to adopt first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion to pass second reading.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance change, a no vote is to deny it.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatnoff?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Yes.
McGivern? Coleman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
10 yeas, 2 abstains.
Okay, by your vote, you have approved the ordinance change. 33I is a committee report that was referred to the Committee on Ordinance regarding a matter that the City Council change the ordinance for Assistant City Clerk PR 15 max to PR 19, and that the mayor initiate this change. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be referred to the full council without a recommendation. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Bartley, and Shatnoff.
Motion to pass the first reading?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. The committee report passes first reading. First reading is that it just be sent back to us without a recommendation. Is this to now adopt?
To adopt, yeah.
Okay, so we can take a vote one way or the other. Okay, very good. So the motion on the floor is to pass the first reading, which would be to adopt the ordinance, okay? Under discussion?
Thank you. So this is a request of our city clerk to increase the assistant city clerk's pay rate from PR 15 to PR 19, step 1. Irma, who's in the assistant city clerk position, is basically the second in command within the clerk's office. However, due to contract negotiations in the clerk's union, she's now being paid less than the individuals that are further in rank in the office. So the city clerk came to us asking for this step, has noted that there is some money in her budget to be transferred from a line item into this line item to cover the remainder of this pay grade change for the year. The reason why it left the committee without a recommendation was because while we were in support of this pay rate change in theory, there were just a number of questions that were left unanswered at that time. But the clerk did send us a communication that explained to us the information that we were looking for. So if I may suspend the rules and allow the clerk to add anything that she'd like to this order, I'd like to do so.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second to allow the city clerk to address the city council on this matter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Brenda, did you want to share any thoughts with us?
No, I can take any questions if anybody has any further questions, but at this point I don't really, I think what I said in committee was all that I had to say.
Okay. Councilor Alexander?
Thanks. As I recall, the main question that was sort of in front of us was whether there was money in the budget to actually cover this remainder of the year, so the rest of it could be dealt with through the budget cycle, and that was answered in the affirmative, so we have that answer. That was the main stumbling block in issuing a positive recommendation out of the committee.
Yeah, for anybody that didn't get my email, I needed to cover the rest of the fiscal year, and it came to $1,025, which I found in my budget, and it came from another position of principal clerk from somebody who we didn't hire until August, so it doesn't even have to go in front of the city council for approval, because it's in the same breath in the budget.
Very good. Anybody, any other thoughts on first reading?
I just have a question.
Councilor Bacon?
I just wonder if the mayor spoke to you about the letter that he sent to us. I think when did it come today?
Yeah. The mayor sent us a letter today.
Yeah, about this position.
Is it postmarked Texas?
I mean, an email or whatever. I just wondered if he had spoken to you about it.
No, he had come out with, was that today? I thought it was a few days ago. Where he said something about, his opinion was wait until the survey, the salary survey. That was the mayor's opinion. He says he basically supports it, but he wants to wait and, well, it's gonna come up for a vote and he'll have a chance to veto it or not, I'm sure. Counselor Graney?
Well, let's just move on. I mean, she deserves this money. Let's just do it.
I agree. Okay, so, motion on the floor is to adopt first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Okay, motion is to pass the second reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Motion that it be,
Motion to, well, no,
that the
motion
passage be
to,
ordained.
motion to adopt the
Committee report, adopt the ordinance change.
the committee report is no recommendation.
Well, no, we've already had it that the motion is to adopt the,
To adopt the pay raise?
to
Yes.
make the ordinance change. We did
Okay.
that at first reading.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the motion on the floor, is to adopt the ordinance change. So we'll have a yes or no vote. Yes in favor, no against. Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, so let the passage be ordained. There is no further debate. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the ordinance. A no vote is to deny the ordinance.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatna?
Yes.
Greenie?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee? McGivern?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
No.
11 yeas and 1 nay.
By your vote, you've approved the ordinance change.
Mr. President?
33J through M as a package.
Okay, motion on
Second.
the floor is to suspend the rules to take up items 33J through 33M as a package
Should be a reading, please.
with abbreviated reading.
Especially because
That's
they
my
all
favorite part.
they've all been refiled. Can I make a point before you read them?
Sure.
So each of these items are amendments to the zoning ordinances. They require public hearings, and I only have recently discovered that these issues related to zoning have to have their public hearings within 65 days of the planning department receiving our communication to send it to committee. So these are considered stale, and each of these orders have been given leave to withdraw, but then also refiled to keep them active and to revisit them.
All right, that's J, K, and L. 33M is something to do about an office manager pay rate.
Yes. Yeah. Amend that.
Okay, so we're gonna do
collation, so it's
33
just
J,
JKL.
K, and L as a package.
Yep.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to take up items 33 J, K, and L as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Committee report recommendation on all three of these items is that they all three be given leave to withdraw. The first one is that the city council consider allowing parking as a principal use by special permit in each zone presently in use in the downtown area, craft permit criteria to do that. K is that the council consider amending zone SC to allow certain other business types. 33L is that the city create a shopping zoning code designated for large-scale districts, including but not limited to Kmart Plaza, the South Street Shopping Plaza, Holyoke Crossing, Stop and Shop Plaza on Lincoln Street, taking into account both past present tendencies, and
Capital
all
abbreviation.
desired future development, yada, yada. So, that's those three, and the recommendation before us is to give all three leave to withdraw. Under discussion, I think you captured it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Those are withdrawn. 33M is that the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the PR salary schedule be amended to increase the salary of the office manager of the fire department from PR 14 to PR 17. Have considered the same, recommend that this order be given leave to withdraw. Councilors Lisi, Alexander, Bacon, Bartley, Shatna.
Receive the committee report and adopt.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and adopt. Under discussion, Council Lisi.
Thank you. This is a request of the fire commissioners to increase the office manager of the fire department. It's really to the chief of the fire department from PR 14 to PR 17. The request was made in 2012. We had heard it one time before, and it was tabled. And then this evening, we had in the chief and the fire commissioners. And this individual is in the salary study, which is, I think, being released very shortly. And so we just felt that it wasn't a situation like we had in the clerk's office where there were funds available as well as this out-of-sync pay grade. And so we felt it was best to just really defer to the salary study and wait for those results.
Yeah, there was a second complication with this one. The salary request was for a specific individual, but because of changes in the department structure between when the order was filed and now, it would actually apply to two individuals. So since it wasn't targeted for that, there was some discussion about changing one or the other's job title and job description so that it more accurately reflected the differences in their work. Thank you.
Bacon.
I would just like to note that for purposes of consistency, I have not voted for any of these pay changes separate from the budget process, which is where I think they should be addressed. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All in favor of giving item number 33 on leave to withdraw?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Finance Committee, 34A.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
can we take 34A to 34G as a package?
Sure.
Suspend the rules?
Motion on the floor is to take up items 34A through 34G as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye. Abbreviated readings, Mr. President.
Abbreviated readings, yes. Thank you. 34A is that the city accept the provisions of the naloxone purchase grant. This is for the fire department. 34B is that the city accept the provisions of the USA Field Hockey Grant. That's for Park and Rec. 34C is that the city council transfer $13,000 from the general fund free cash to data maintenance, care of prisoners, and office supplies. That's for police. 34D is that the city transfer $1,000 from repair and maintenance to overtime. That, I believe, is for the War Memorial Commission. 34E is that the city transfer $20,720 from city solicitor salary to professional services and special counsel. That's for the law department. 34F is that the city council transfer $2,500 from hearing officer to purchase of services, and this is being run through the fire department. 34G is a request to transfer $43,000 from general fund free cash to motor vehicle supplies and motor vehicle repairs. That's for the police department.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, and to pass the first reading on all of these. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yep, 34A, we received a grant for the fire department, $12,770, no city match, and it's for the drug to help fight overdoses. So when the fire department arrives on a scene, if someone's overdosed, they give that to try and help out the patient. As Councilor Leahy had requested, to make sure that all the firefighters were trained on that, and they all have gone through the proper training with dealing with this type of drug. For B, $760 has been received by Park and Rec to purchase equipment. That's really, it's going through no city match, but $760 coming in. $13,000 is a breakdown of money for I think it was $2,000 for data maintenance. Care of prisoners was $5,000, and I think $6,000 was remainder for supplies, which deals with a lot of different things. Of which, as the chief pointed out in his budget, he requested a certain amount. It was cut. He had to come back because some of the stuff is contractual. The $1,000 is for overtime at the War Memorial, winters, events going on over there. Pretty much standard. You see it towards this time. City solicitor, not free cash. She's taking it from the remainder amount of the city solicitor. So that amount that was left over is going to go towards special counsel fees, of which Kara gave a great breakdown of the cases that they have taken over, settled. The vast majority of the cases are now in-house, so thank the law department for all their work. The 34F, $2,500, was in the legal department where they supervised over fire violations or code violations, of which they're going to give the $2,500 over to the fire department, and the chief is now going to contract out to other communities who have a hearing officer to try and cut this cost down. So they're just moving around as to who's going to handle it. The last one, 34G, is we have some seriously old police cars, and this is the amount needed to keep them up and running and going until we get the new ones out there.
Any discussion on any of those items? Hearing none, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Pass second reading?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adoption of all of these items, 34A through 34G. A no vote is to deny all of them.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatna? Yes. Graney? Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Reese?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern? Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
11 yeas.
By your vote, you've adopted the transfer request. 34H. 34H is a report from the Committee on Finance to whom was referred a transfer in the amount of $95,000 from general fund free cash to police overtime. Recommend that this financial transfer be approved. Councilors Tallman, Bacon, and Jordan.
Make a motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive the committee report and to pass its first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yes, police have come in and asked for 95,000 of overtime. They ran out. I did not vote for this. I'll just tell my side of the story. When we did the budget, I proposed, along with some other counselors, to cut fire as well as the police. The police were kept at what was budgeted for. Fire was ultimately cut, but when they came back, they asked for a little more, and there was a compromise for that 100,000 for overtime for the fire department, of which they did brownouts and everything else to try and minimize the damage for overtime. Here, the police department, based on the historic study that we're told would guarantee us that would cover the entire year, they've gone over that. So, where the fire department has helped out, the police department is actually going above and beyond what they've been allocated. I did request a breakdown, and it was put on my desk for tonight, a breakdown of all the officers who are receiving overtime, whether it be for overtime or court overtime. This is a copy that should go out to everyone. Some of the questions that were brought up in finance are how are we managing the overtime account, of which one of the alarming issues that I have with this is that you have 4 captains in this department. If they go on overtime, it's about $100 an hour of overtime. If they show up to an event, it's a mandatory 4 hours, even if they're there for an hour. That's the union contract. All 4 captains work the day shift. Therefore, if you look at this list, there are some people here that are over 40,000 of overtime. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to set up parameters to cut these type of costs, because as we were alerted to by Bellamy Schmidt, our account is down to just a little bit over 200,000 for free cash. We still have cars that we have to put these people in to keep the streets safe. They're driving in 2-year-old cars with over 200,000 of mileage. They're just gonna break down. Do we have cars, or do we have overtime? Of which another issue that was brought up was you have a shortage of patrolmen in there because of the budgeting, and then we turn around and we promote people in status, which then pushes them up once again in overtime based on their salaries. I don't fault people for wanting overtime, going after it, trying to make a living and getting extra money. I'm all for it. But you have to put parameters in to stop the bleeding, because if not, there is no more free cash, and now you're dipping into stabilization. We're getting close to that point. So for me, I'm not voting to this until we get some type of structure in order to, in essence, stop the problem.
Thank you. If I may, through the president to the chair, in that report that you received tonight, because my second on approval of the overtime was with the understanding that in that report you have before you, it would show that the overtime was bumped by the restructuring of the payment of the officers relative to the schools.
It doesn't show that at all. It just
does not show that?
It just shows the names, and then it breaks it down in overtime versus overtime for the court. So 2 different types of overtime that are out there.
So
It didn't
there's
come back with the full request.
nothing that shows that.
This is from Bellamy, which is, he can only show us the names of the officers and what they're getting. The other request was for the chief to get to us that information. That has not come forward.
Okay, so I want to go on the record that I supported it based on the understanding that there was a shift in the structure. And if we're not getting data that shows that that is the case, then I will be voting against the overtime, because I think all the departments should be bearing the brunt of our financial situation together. And I have to say, I was disappointed when I asked if there had been any operational changes relative to how things are being done on a day-to-day basis and affecting the overtime. And the feedback was pretty much that they would begin to look at that, but that there haven't been changes made at this time. And I do think the public's pretty well aware of the changes that have happened in one or more other departments. And so that's my take on it. Thank you.
Any other thoughts on this issue? Okay, all in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to lay on the table. I just want to make one observation first. That is Counselor Leahy, just like he did in Finance Committee, will not be participating, will not be voting on this matter. Okay, and so, motion on the floor is that the second reading be tabled. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor of tabling, the second reading?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Show of hands to table. Eight, motion passes. So 34H, that second reading. Thank you. 34I is a report from the Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a financial transfer in the amount of $12,000 from General Fund Free Cash to Motor Vehicle Fuel. Have considered the same and recommend that the transfer request be denied. Councilors McGee, Leahy, Tallman, Bacon, and Jordan.
Motion to receive and adopt, pass first reading.
Okay, motions are made and seconded to receive and adopt. The committee report pass its first reading, which would be to deny the transfer. Councilor McGee, under discussion?
This is a request to deny came from the chief. He filed this request for fuel at a time where they were guesstimating if they needed more if the fuel costs went up. Since that time, from when he filed it to ultimately when we received it from the mayor, they have recalculated the numbers and they said they should be fine for the rest of the year. So he actually requested that this be denied.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of adopting the committee report, which is to deny on the first reading? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Pass the second reading.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any other discussion? Hearing none, just so that this is going to be a little bit tad different. Just so remember, when the clerk calls your name, a yes vote is to adopt the committee report, which is to reject and deny the transfer request. A no vote is to reject the committee report and approve the transfer. So a yes vote will be to not approve the money. A no vote will be to approve the money. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Alexander?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Shatna?
Yes.
Graney?
Yes.
Jordan?
Yes.
Leahy?
Yes.
LeBron Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
McGivern?
Yes.
Tolman?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've approved the committee report and denied the transfer request. The next up now is Public Safety Committee reports, and the first up is 35A. Unless we can take any one or more of these in as a package. 35A is that the Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred in order that the Alarm Division provide the city with an accounting and cost request for repairing and or replacing the traffic lights in the city. The cost breakdown should focus on the intersections that are most in need of repair immediately, and then a breakdown of those all over the city traffic lights.
You could take, if
Sure.
if you will, A, B, and C as a package.
Okay. All right, motion has been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up items 35A through 35C as a package. All in favor of that? Aye. So moved. Okay, 35B is that the Committee on Public Safety, to whom was referred in order that the city look into installing signage on Main Street informing truck drivers not to use their engine braking. Committee's considered that, asked that order's been considered complied with. And 35C is also from committee report from Public Safety, and that's ordered that the Department of Park and Rec make available compostable and flushable dog waste bags at all locations where dog waste bags are provided, and that the appropriate signage, including disposal regulations, be clearly posted at each location. Consider this order has been complied with, and this comes from Councilors Bacon, Leahy, Graney, and Bresnahan.
So motion to adopt the committee report?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to adopt all three committee reports. Under discussion, Councilor Bacon.
Thanks. For item 35A relative to the lights and the cost breakdown, Joe O'Connor came in from the fire department and he gave us all a packet, which I hope the rest of you have received. It includes this orange breakdown and a number of backup sheets to the most problematic lights in the city. And so, for the price tag of $1 million, we can fix just in round numbers, the 10 most problematic lights in the city. He was very thorough. He came in, he did a show and tell relative to the aging infrastructure, the problems that they're having getting parts, and that the Band-Aid approach they're taking right now just to keep things working is to order pieces that are handmade and put together, but they are not state-of-the-art or very durable in terms of their life expectancy in doing these repairs. But that's what they're doing for the time being, and they're ordering them one or two at a time. But the fix is really up in the area of capital expenses. So a number of the members of the committee questioned them about what approaches, what funding resources they're looking at. And then they were also asked as to whether this was being put forth in the budget process. And we were informed that it had not been at that time. So given that the Public Safety Committee really could just gather the information based on the order that had been filed, on that basis it's been found to be complied with, but there was a request put through that they would keep working this matter through the budget process by members of the committee. If anybody else has something they'd like to add?
Yeah, as Councilor Bacon said, Joe came in, and as always, he's very organized and does a great job. He came in and gave a great presentation of this machinery, which is quite foreign to me. However, he kind of demonstrated what was wrong. This machinery is very old, but I saw it on the news just the other night that Charlie Baker released a lot of money to different cities and towns, and one of the things that's indicated for is street signals. So this is maybe an avenue that we should go with the good governor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Councilor Graney?
Yeah, I told them to go for the gold, put it in the budget, see what we could do. But if there's extra money coming from the state, that would be a big help, for sure.
Okay. All in favor of adopting the committee report?
Mr. President,
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Alexander?
we had a summary of I'm sorry, is the chair planning on summarizing B and C or no? Just curious.
Did you want to vote on?
We're doing them as a package, so, you want to give some thoughts on B and C, please?
Well, B and C were very straightforward. DPW was just going to move a sign to deal with Main Street. And relative to the parks and the order relative to the Parks and Rec and the compost bags, they sent a communication outlining which companies provide them and the signage that shows that they're in compliance with the order that was filed.
So the bags are available at the parks, whatever, where they should be?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that brief enough?
Very brief. We can sleep easy at night knowing the waste bags are where they need to be. Any other thoughts? Okay, great. All in favor of adopting the three committee reports?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 35D is a report from the Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the DPW install signage around city entrances stating, "Share the road with horses." Yes. Have considered the same, recommend that the order be given leave to withdraw. Councilors Bacon, Leahy, Graney Jr., actually, I didn't realize you were a junior, and Councilor Bresnahan.
Was that filed like back in the 1800s or?
Yes. Share the road. Just got through the committee system now.
Motion
We're
to
all
adopt
backed
the
up.
committee report,
Bonanza.
and it's not April Fool's Day.
Okay, yes. I think we can have the abbreviated committee report on this one.
The maker wasn't there,
The maker was not
and
there.
there was no specificity to the order.
So if
and
he
therefore-
feels it's that important, he'll refile it.
Baker's not here.
He couldn't make it at to this, well, to this section of the meeting. He was here for earlier sections.
The maker is alive, though.
He is.
Okay.
I have seen him. So, all in favor of adopting the committee report?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. No public service, or, we have one DGNR report for, tonight, and that brings us to, 37A. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we already took that up.
Take care of.
We're ahead of ourselves. And, 30, no committee, of Charter and Rules Committee reports for this particular meeting, which now brings us to motions, orders, and resolutions, which is, item number 39, and that is filed by yours truly, that the city council give Fred Glidden a proclamation recognizing his service to the city, where he served as either a city councilor or commissioner continuously from 1970 to 2014. The city council thank him for his 44 years of service and extends its best wishes to him and his family.
Receive
my
adopt,
name?
Okay.
add all our names.
All right,
Adding
our
all
names.
councilors' names, is that okay? Motion to approve all councilors' names to this. Under discussion, briefly, quietly, Fred has served on lots and lots of boards throughout the city. And, he's just a good person, and he's done a lot of years on all these, these commissioners that we have. We're so lucky to have so many of these volunteers, and Fred has been one of them. So, we just wanted to recognize and say thank you to Fred, for all the years of service. So, all in favor of adopting this with all councilors' names added?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we have some other proclamations for a few different people, so we're gonna try and get these scheduled up, maybe for our first meeting in May and whatnot, if we can pull that off. Next item up is item number 40. Item number 40 is introduced by Councilor Jordan, that the city of Holyoke, through the mayor and its various departments, reach out to the sheriff's department for the possibility of relocating the Howard Street program to the site of the former GAH building. A long-term tenancy could make very good economic sense to both them and us. The state has approved them to receive in excess of $1.2 million per year in lease costs. The site would appear as a strong possibility and to make a lot of sense if there is public support for such a program, as well as support of the Holyoke Police Department. This program has been highly acclaimed and would appear to be an asset to the community financially, as well as serving an important need for alcohol and drug treatment. Councilor Lee?
Yeah, I'd like to receive, can I also put my name on that?
Sure.
And, just very quickly on your discussion, I
Yeah.
know, talking
So
to.
motion would be to
Motion to
adopt,
re-
and
the
then
mayor.
refer to the, I was thinking to the mayor and probably Hedick and maybe the law department.
Yep. Okay. And just, under discussion, this is something that I did speak to the mayor about sometime, and he did get in contact with Larry LaJoy.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure where that led off, but, I know that they went up and I believe they walked through it.
Oh, good. So that's a great start, and at least to consider it. I mean, we've got a lot of options sitting out there as far as the future. One option is to sell the building and have something there. Another option, maybe it's reuse. I mean, here they have to move Howard Street because of the casino. They're under a lot of pressure to do that. They need something with a lot of
Getting
size.
evicted.
And, basically, this would pay us, upwards, they're talking between 1.2 and 1.8 million a year. They've been authorized for rent. So this could be, if this was a long-term relationship, this could be something that, could be very financially beneficial to us if it can be done. We'd obviously have to garner public support. We would want to get HPD support, the mayor, ourselves. But I think it's certainly, we should at least see if we've even got a shot at that. That could be big. Councilor Bacon.
Thank you. I would just note that many of the residents in Ward 5 were in opposition to the Gandera program that sits up there now, and to my knowledge is not paying rent to the city. And the last report we had, I believe, from our planning department was that the land was being put up for sale out to the public. They came in and gave us a report on uses for the land. And I would note that we have high-end market rate residential units there. And there has been recently indications from the residents in the area that they would like to see more of that sort of development. Thank you.
Definitely, we should look at all the proposals. If somebody says we're gonna build, spend 10 million and put up, an expansion of Devonshire, then we should consider that proposal. We should be able to consider this proposal, and options are a good thing. Councilor Tillman?
options are a great thing. If I could add my name to that.
Sure.
And I did speak, as Councilor Lay said, I did speak to Larry LaJoy after the parade down at the Sheriff's, the Boys Club, just to get an idea. So, I mean, they know about it, but
Oh, good.
like you said, it's an option. They don't, it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah.
See what they say. And but as Councilor Bacon stated, we got to look at everything. Whatever can work there. I would love to see another Devonshire across the way there if that could possibly happen. It'd be awesome, but we'll see. It doesn't hurt to try.
See what what the interest is. Councilman McGivern, did you want to say something? Councilman McGivern?
Just in the early 90s, the sheriff took over the armory on a move to alleviate the overcrowding in the jail, and the initial thought was the neighborhood was going to go crazy, the city was going to go crazy, and actually ended up the exact opposite after he moved in, where the neighborhood embraced the use of the building, embraced the correctional officers that provided safety patrols in the neighborhood on top of the Holyoke Police Department, and even the principal in the school department across the street at the time, the McHugh School, embraced the whole idea. So I think we should keep an open mind, knowing that Howard Street addresses what is an epidemic. It addresses addiction. It addresses addiction with people who are not being able to address their problems in a fashion of treatment. They need the forced treatment, but it also does it in a way that is successful. And I think it's a nationally known program, and I think we should keep an open mind on it.
Should also be, just to echo what you're saying there as well, it should also be noted that they don't house violent offenders and different things at the Howard Street program. These are people that have, various alcohol and drug addictions and need, the type of help that are afforded in those programs. So it would be, I know that they have great security, and I know they have received quite a number of awards for the work that they're performing there. Councilor Green?
Yeah, the sheriff's department is very solid, and just for the record, that facility, that armory facility, that was run by my good friend Tom Brosnan, God bless him and God rest his soul.
Yeah. We wish they were back at the armory now, and to see the condition of it.
Anybody seen it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole side of it is collapsing down. I mean, that's
Governor Weld wanted us to take it over, and he would have given us $2 million to renovate it.
So much for
Certain
that.
mayor didn't want to take it.
Yeah.
Now we own it anyways, and it's fallen down.
And we have no money to pay for any of the changes. Oh, God. It's just a rerun movie. Okay, so all in favor of adoption of item 40?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 41 is an order introduced by Councilor Lisi that the legal department look into whether the city has the ability to reject a receivership decision by the state.
Send to the school department's legal counsel, because I think they have a stronger area of expertise related to this issue. And send a copy to the joint committee of the school committee and the city council.
Okay.
Second.
Can I have my name as a co-filer? Okay, thank you.
Kevin, could you add my name to that?
Sure.
please?
Adding Councilor Greenie.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay, everybody want to be on this order? Okay, without objection, adding all councilors. And the motion on the floor is to receive item 41, adopt it, and refer it to the school, we'll say to the school superintendent and their legal counsel, as well as to the joint committee on city council and school committee. Councilor Greenie?
Could I add to that to send it to our council as well to get a legal?
Yeah, our
opinion?
law department as well. And the law department. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And obviously, that's a time-sensitive matter, because I know we have a meeting on the 27th that's going to be pressing, and then at some point subsequent there or two, a vote of the state board.
You can take 42 and 43 up as a package and send them to ordinance.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to take up items 42 and 43 as a package with an abbreviated reading and refer both of them to the ordinance committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Just for the record, 42 related to changing a BH zone dimensional change. 43 was regarding a pilot for 49 Garfield Street related to a solar install. So, again, everyone that's in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay. So both 42 and 43 to ordinance. 44. 44 is introduced by Councilor McGee. And this is a transfer requested by the auditor. The purpose of this is to transfer $375,000 to the general fund, from the general fund. I'm not sure this is, yeah.
From the general fund to
It's supposed to be the transfer from stabilization fund, to the snow removal services, but I hope we got our accounts lined up here. It says transfer to general fund, 375, and, it should be to remove from stabilization to go to snow removal services. This might be.
Send to finance and we'll.
Yeah. The intent of this, and I did speak to the mayor's office about this and the city auditor, just for the benefit of the membership, and, the snow is over, as we know, and the view was, and this was my recommendation, you'll do what you think is best. My recommendation, because they're so short on money, and we have almost a de minimis amount of, free cash left, that we take the snow removal overages, because it's a one-time charge and it's something unexpected, from stabilization, and we do it to pay the remaining snow bills, which is what this is to do. The other option would be to add it to the tax rate in the form of additional taxes, if that's even possible, in light of the, and then, or to use next year's free cash, but then, we'd have the bill out there lingering. So it seemed like the most prudent course would be to use the stabilization in light of the nature of the expense. So, motion on the floor is to receive item number 44 and refer it to finance. Under discussion, Councilor Alexander.
Thanks. I'm having trouble with the characterization of snow in the winter as a one-time thing.
Well, we don't normally.
Understood. We don't normally get as much snow, but nevertheless.
Yeah, well, we budget for X.
Is there any expectation that this will come back from the state or from federal?
No, there's no money coming back from the state.
This is a one-off.
We're responsible to pick up our own snow. There's no snow account in the state that sends down a check. What I meant by that was to say that some years it's X, some years it's X plus. This year happened to be X plus plus. And so the point is that, in fairness to the budgeting people in the city, I don't think anybody can, back last May, predict how much snow you're gonna have 9 months later. So, it seemed to me a reasonable use of the stabilization in light of that. So, motion on the floor is to refer it to finance. Any other thoughts? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Item number 45 is introduced by Councilor Bacon. She proposes a series of traffic flow and passenger safety changes related to PVTA, and this looks like to be a changing of some locations of some, looks like bus stops.
Yeah, it's over near the mall, so
By the
we
mall.
refer to ordinance.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to refer 45 to ordinance. All in favor of that? Councilor Graney?
Just quickly, will the copy go to the city engineer on that too, maybe?
Eventually it will. Committee will look into that. Yep. So all in favor of sending the ordinance? Opposed, so moved. 46. 46 is an order introduced by Councilor Valentin that 30 miles per hour sign between 186 and 190 Pine Street be eliminated as recommended by the HPD.
Send to ordinance.
Okay, motion on the floor is to receive and refer to ordinance. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
So President, we take 47 and 8 as a package.
Okay, motion on the floor is to take 47 and 48 as a package, suspend the rules to do that with an abbreviated reading. All in favor of that? Aye. Opposed, so moved. 47 is that the city council invite representatives of the Gold Star Mothers and Blue Star Mothers to an upcoming meeting of DGNR. 48 is that from Councilors Bartley and Tallman that we declare surplus a piece of property located at 245 High Street. I'm not sure which property in particular that is. I'm sure Councilor
Across the
Bartley.
street.
I'm sorry? Which building?
Across the street, Mr. President.
Which one, the Steiger building?
No.
Oh, okay. We own that?
It's now called Solutions. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Solutions? Okay.
We have a solution.
Yeah, let us hope. The property is zoned BC Downtown Business, previously assessed at 151 900.
Vote to DGR, Mr. President.
And the recommendation is that we take these two proposals, 47 and 48, and refer them both to the DGNR committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We already took care of 49, which brings us to the late files section. of the
How many
meeting.
late files, Mr. President?
How many? Two.
Yep.
And they have but one author, the gentleman from Ward 3.
He's a good man, I'll tell you. He's a good man.
No debating that one.
Okay. A, from Counselor Bartley, to declare surplus a piece of property at 188 Chestnut Street and available for disposition. What would you have us do with
DGR,
that?
please.
Second.
Okay, motion is to refer to the DGNR committee. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Late file B. Late file B is an order introduced by Counselor Bartley that the city council declares surplus a piece of property located at 232 Beach Street, and that that surplus property be considered available for
DGR,
disposition.
please.
And receive and refer that to DGNR. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. I just have one brief announcement. After many, many years of not missing a meeting, unfortunately, I'm going to be missing our next meeting.
No.
I know. Don't be heartbroken. Unfortunately, next meeting happens to coincide with school vacation, and the Jourdain family was promised a vacation, so therefore the Jourdains are going away on vacation for our next meeting. I have graciously asked Counselor McGivern, and he has graciously accepted to run the next meeting, so somehow carry on without me from in 2 weeks.
I'll be gone as well, too.
And Counselor Leahy will not be with us. Counselor Graney? Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. So the motion to adjourn is on the floor. Is there a second to that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We stand adjourned. All the best.